The Board of Education opened the special meeting at 9 a.m. on Thursday, June 17th. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Smith present.
Sherlock present.
Jesus Holguin present.
DJ Johnson present.
Daryl Peden present.
Martin Kidzior present.
Now moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Kidzior, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
So place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of
America, and to
Republic which stands
stands one nation under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Kidziora. All right, moving on to item B, public comments on agenda items. Anyone wishing to speak to any item on the agenda may do so at this time. Individual speakers shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes on any agenda item. Board of Education shall limit the total time for public input on each agenda item to 21 minutes. Board Bylaw 9323B, Section 5. Per Board Bylaw 9323, twice the allotted time will be provided to a member of the public utilizing a translator. Claudia, do we have any public comments on agenda items at this time?
No public comments.
Thank you, Claudia. All right, now moving on to item C, our governance workshop. We have from the California School Boards Association, Terry Vigil, who will be conducting and facilitating our board governance workshop. Welcome, Terry, and thank you for your assistance with this.
All right, thanks guys. So good to see you all. It's been a minute since we've been together, quite a minute, right? All through COVID and all the things that we've had to deal with in the last year and a half. So I'm glad to be here with you all. Today's objective is to finalize our governance handbook for you. And we're going to start off with a little activity. Since we've had such a challenging year, I would say, I wanted to start off talking about some of the successes we've had. You know, I mean, out of bad always comes some good. And you have a document, and it's a welcome document. And number one is, the question is, what are some of the successes you experienced as a district during the last year? Number two is, what lessons were learned during the pandemic for the governance team? And number three, what do you admire most about your governance team? So let's take about maybe 5-6 minutes, and you guys can write a couple reflections under 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll talk about it. We'll have that conversation about it. So I think because last year was so challenging, it's good to kind of debrief about it, you know, talk about our successes, talk a little bit about our challenges, and then go on from there. So I'm going to give you guys, what is it, 9:03, let's go to 9:10, and then we'll debrief. Thank you. Thank you, Claudia, for putting that up. I was moving my cursor, trying to move it. I'm like, oh, wait, I wasn't sharing it. Thank you. Couple more minutes and we'll start having our conversation. Other. Okay, is everyone about ready? Thumbs up? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Daryl, can we start with you, Mr. President?
Yes, absolutely. Do
Thank
you
you.
want me to go through all three of them or
Yes,
just, okay.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Well, let's start with one. What are some of the successes we've experienced as a district during the last year? Some of the things that popped in my head were just the way that we served our community in a time of a worldwide pandemic. You know, there was a lot of need in our community, and no question, this district, Moreno Valley, stepped up and filled that need in ways that other districts did not. So I'm just extremely proud. I mean, from when you're looking at vaccine clinics, when you're looking at feeding our community. I mean, we did a food distribution event on a weekend, and literally staff and Dr. Kidziora had, I think, like 3 days to prepare. And it was like, no questions asked. We're going to get this done because this is what we need to do. This is our obligation to our community. And for a school district to step in that role and do that, that's really a big deal.
Real, yes.
So, yeah, I would just say, you know, that's a success.
Yeah,
In addition, just the way that our communication, I think is important. See, I'm not going to list out everything. I'll let y'all do it. Otherwise, everybody's going to be repeating. But I'll stay there on that one. There's a lot, but I'll give room to the other board members as well.
okay. All right.
Number two, the lessons learned during the pandemic for the governance team. Just one that I noted quickly, being flexible and patient with each other. Was really important during this pandemic. So I think that was something that we learned to do. Of course, many of us are more skilled than others, but I think just in me in general, I can see how I grew through this pandemic to make sure that those I'm better at doing. As a number three, what do I admire the most about our governance team? You know, more recently, what's really been on my mind is that, you know, and recognizing is the amount of work and effort every one of our board members and our cabinet put into their work, and how important it is to this governance team to be present. And sometimes we don't put as much value on being present as what really, the amount of value should be attached to that. So I would say I do definitely admire that.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I've been kind of watching what you guys have been doing in Moreno Valley, and I'm super proud of like the food distribution, the vaccine clinics. You guys have done wonderful work down there, and it's been challenging, right? I've been a board member for 24 years, and this was probably the most challenging year that we've ever experienced. So thank you for sharing, Daryl. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Susan, can we go to you next, please?
Yes, I just have to unmute.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, I thought I'd be last, but okay, here I am, second. I think a great success that we experienced was the way we were able, and this was due to really teachers and other staff members able to make a fast change to online learning. They talk about how much students have lost during this last year. I don't think our students have lost as much as they may have in other places, because I think that even some of our older teachers that maybe were not as experienced with technology were able to make this change. And I think it's partly because we have so much help available for teachers to support them and get them going and help them with everything that they need.
Perfect.
Number two, what lessons were learned during the pandemic for the governance team? Hey, I learned that I can use Zoom.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I didn't think I'd be able to do that. I didn't think I'd be comfortable doing that. But sitting here, seeing everybody today, it's not quite like being in person, but almost as good. Gee, after this, I'm going to go get a drink of water. Okay. The thing I most admire about our governance team is we have an ability to get along with each other and to work well together. That's
Perfect.
something I've always admired, and we continue to do that.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Susan. I really appreciate it. Hey, and about our workshop today, if you need to step away to get a drink of water or do anything.
I'll get a bottle of water right now.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. We'll be taking breaks too during our 4 hours together today. So thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate those reflections. Hey, Suze, can we go to you next, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Yes, I also, like Mr. Pete, and I think the list is long, 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 and we will be here the whole day. But I just want to mention a couple. One of them is the many recognition to programs, to students, to staff members during the year. And to me, that means that the team never stopped working. Even during the pandemic, there was a little glitch, in their minds of everybody, but everybody continued doing what needed to be done to continue serving the students and protecting each other. So that's, in general, everybody continued. That was one. And then the second one, something that we experienced recently, and I'm really proud and happy that last week we were able to celebrate. I believe the number is 2,270 students graduating from high school, and to me that's a stamp on the school year, difficult year, but still, I mean, that many students graduating, and the fact that we were all together at every ceremony celebrating the students, I think that was huge. So
Awesome.
celebration for the entire district. Of course, we could not have the entire family there, but we were there with the people that needed to be there at every ceremony. So that's number one. And then number two, to me, the one thing that I learned, and it's not a new concept, but to me, communication during this time was critical. Mm-hmm. And being able to continue being in touch with each other. I mean, it was the communication from the superintendent to the entire team and to the entire community on 2 times a week. And that was something that kept the entire community together in the area of education. Of course, I hear in many other districts that there was no communication, confusion, and all those things. And I can probably say that such thing did not exist as much in our district because thanks to the communication from the superintendent. And of course, I felt that I was being informed continuously. And I'm thinking that my colleagues feel the same way. So communication is critical in these times. And then the commitment from all of us, not only the teachers, the classified managers, but the board, the commitment from all of us to continue, again, being together in the decisions and the steps to take forward the educational system in our community. It's important, and I think we did it. So what do I admire the most about our governance team is how caring everyone in this team is about our students, about our staff,
Right.
because at all times we were thinking about the safety of our students, about the services of our students, about who's missing, who is not getting something, and what do we do? I mean, the clinic that Mr. Peter mentioned, that was a great example. I mean, this is needed in the community, and let's put it together. Of course, I didn't have anything to do with it, but it was amazing how it was done, and many other things that were done during the process. So I admire this team, taking the necessary steps to meet the needs of the students and the community as a whole.
Perfect. Thank you, Jesus. I really appreciate that. Yeah, there were a lot of successes and a lot of stuff to celebrate. My nephew graduated there from Moreno Valley last week, so I was really excited about that. So thank you so much. CJ, can we go to you next, please?
Oh, I figured you'd call me next after Jesus. Oh, darn it. I wish you would have got me first.
Okay, next time.
I'll tell you what, between Jesus and my other colleagues that's already spoken, I'm looking at my list. Good thing I wrote a little list down. So starting with the very first one, what are some of the successes? I'll get rid of the elephant in the room right now. One of the things that I was impressed with is how our superintendent ensures that all of his students are in the house. And what that simply means is that when he sees a weak link, he makes sure that he does something about it. And I don't say anything to him, I just watch it. And I guess what I'm really saying, and my colleagues know this as well, as far as the African-American community is, as far as the kids in schools, they've been doing a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned, as far as academics are concerned. And I think it's worth mentioning, because if you look at the district several years ago, 5, 6, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen the things that we saw just recently. And then when you look at the graduation, I personally looked at how many kids I saw in the first and second rows. I wanted to see who was there. Have we moved up? And certainly we have. And so I owe all of that to the parents, number one, the student, but also to the teachers who knew that, hey, look, there's something more that I could do to help those kids, perhaps the least of these or what have you, whatever the reasons are. And so they didn't just happen to be sitting there on the front row. They sat there because of the hard work that they put in, as well as the teachers. But again, I've got to give the credit where the credit is due. It started with the superintendent. And I'll use another example about some of the things that he's done with his vision. A couple of years ago, when we had, I forget the name of what we had at Vista Del Lago in the auditorium, but he had a young kid. He had a young kid dressed in a tuxedo who was sort of like a helper. And see, to me, when I see that, that tells me that kid will never forget that.
No.
So by the time he gets into high school, he is going to be motivated to maintain that certain status that Dr. Ketchiora put him in. And then that means he's going to do better. Now, I'll also tell you too, Dr. Ketchiora had a pretty good model to work with. But, with that being said, it really doesn't matter. But the point is, other kids saw that. And I believe that when other kids see those kinds of things, it's going to motivate them to even do better. So that's one of the things that I'm mostly proud of. And I have to give Dr. Ketchiora credit again, because if he didn't start that, if he didn't put the folks in place, and if he didn't explain to people what he wanted, that wouldn't happen. It's up to the parents or it's up to the kid. And while we know that's the truth, but we do know that if you hold them by the hand and you take them so far, then they're going to go the rest of the way by themselves. So I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm very happy to say that. And there's also at graduations, I made sure I took a look at the front rows. I wanted to know who was there.
Right.
I saw some kids there, and I had a little mixed emotion. I was surprised, but then I wasn't surprised. And so I hope to see even more kids on the first rows, the first and second rows next year, because once a kid sees somebody there that looks like them, they're going to be motivated to do the same thing. It's just like anything else in sports. I know that, and Mr. P didn't know this because he played sports. If your teammate is doing a heck of a job, your job is to do as well or better. You're not going to just sit back and just say, okay, ho hum. And so I believe that that's going to really help the whole entire district. So those are one of the things that I saw as a huge success. And the lesson learned during the pandemic, I wrote how easy it is to pass germs. I mean, I never really give it a thought, except if somebody's coughing and don't put their hands on it, because they have a cold or something. Other than that, you don't pay that much attention. But this gave me a greater awareness of what's around me and the things that we touch and the things that we do. I wore gloves, and I told people, hey, I wear gloves because I bite my fingernails. I don't like constantly biting, but I put my hands in my mouth all the time. And so what that told me is, hey, man, can you stop biting them so much now? Ease up a little bit. I'm, making fun of them, making light of it. But the thing is, the gloves really, I made the glove have meaning to me. And the meaning was you put them on to be safe and to be safe around other people as well. So.
Exactly.
And then the last one, what do you admire most about the governance team? I'll tell you what, this is, and I'm gonna mention Jesus because he's been around such a long time, but this is one of the better team or best teams that I've worked with. I don't want to talk about other people, but I will tell you this. The first night that I went to a board meeting, someone took me there, and I told them, hey, look, let's get out of here. I'm not so sure this is what I want to do. And Jesus can, if he draws back, he can remember what I was talking about. People up on the dais, just get up and walking out and going home. I'm thinking, what is that? I know
what's going on.
Yeah. So when you look at that versus what you have today, and I think Mrs. Smith put it very aptly, is that I think we have a nice cohesive group. We work well together, and we all want the same thing, and that's the betterment of our students as well as our staff.
Perfect. Well said, CJ. Thank you so much.
Did I go over my time?
No, you're perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Locke, can we go to you next, please?
I guess I'm the last one, no problem. Yes, a lot of it's already been said, but what I would say as strengths is one is having Dr. Kadziora and having that collaborative culture already in place, because it took a lot of working collaboratively between administration and unions, and that success had that prior to the pandemic, but it also that I think that's what really continuing that got us through this. The also, keeping safety, as a priority throughout this while continuing to focus on, student learning. Lessons learned were, let me see, the importance of technology, and that you can, by using technology, you can continue keeping things moving forward. And I think also the power of collaboration between everybody.
Right.
And what I admire most about the governance team, dedication, collaboration, the ability to agree to disagree, but still work for the common good, and the ability to proceed through rough spots, because every organization, every
Yes.
leadership team goes through, periods where you just are off on a rough spot, but you continue to collaborate and talk and get through it, so
Perfect.
those are my areas.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Locke. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Dr. Kizadora?
So on successes,
Yes.
I think one of the biggest things was visible leadership. A lot of people talked about our board, and every time I did a school visit, the board was by my side. Or if I was at an event, I invite them to everything I go to, and 2 to 4 of them may show up. It depends. But people see them, and if they see one, they see them all, and they know that they're not alone. Principals often commented, and secretaries and people in schools, that y'all didn't just stay at the district office, you just didn't stay home. We know a lot of districts where the superintendent never came to work.
Yeah.
And they said you scheduled visits throughout the year, and we really appreciate the board coming with you. And so I think, that was like huge this year. I mean, we had other things, but I think for people to feel, that they were cared about, that they were thought about, that they weren't doing this by themselves, that's a big thing. And then the lessons learned, I think all of us, learned more grace and empathy for each other, and just, the ability to try to really understand each other in a deeper way, and what people were experiencing, or what they were going through. And the thing I admire most, I think it just happened at this last board meeting, but I had so many people, and I think it happened after the graduations too, that principals and administrators commented. All 5 board members came to every graduation. In other districts, they did not do that. They did not all come. Sometimes they were assigned, or that was the culture. But to the administrators, they were like, they were nervous sometimes, all 5 of them being there, and me with them.
Right.
I'm not just going to say them, me to me more. But they said it meant so much that they saw the time commitment, and just that what they sacrificed, and to demonstrate that graduation is important, and that it means a lot. And so that was a real public demonstration of their commitment and their dedication. And I think that's really admirable, because they all 5 went, and that was just really a true testament. But at the last board meeting, I think it was Mr. Peden said he's learned this year, and then Mr. Peden, you can tell me if I say this wrong, but you said something about we all need to take time to just really reflect and be in the moment. And there were people watching, and administrators, they talk to each other. And so then they said to me, I really liked the board, how they were last night, and how they discussed things, and how they were asking each other so professionally and everything.
Yes.
And it means a lot, because we're modeling what we'd like for them to be like.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I admired most, was at graduation. And I'm not saying it wasn't other times, but it was really highly evident at the last board meeting and at graduation.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. K. And what you said is so powerful. The governance team models leadership for the rest of the district. And when you guys, are cohesive, working well together, it just is a great reflection on the district and the whole governance team. So I'm so glad to hear that. One of my fondest memories was when I was with you guys in person last time. I got to visit one of your school sites, and I will always remember that visit because it was so powerful. You built that beautiful school in an area that didn't have much, right? And just the going into that school site, seeing the kids, it was an after school program. They had their 3D glasses on and they were doing virtual visits to Atlanta. I think they were in Martin Luther King's neighborhood or something like that.
Yeah.
But you guys are doing amazing work, and I just admire what you're doing, and I love to hear of the successes. And you know, was it all a success? No, we were learning as we were going. We've never been in a pandemic before, but I love to hear about the good things that came out of that. Is there any other reflections from the board or Dr. K on our conversation so far? We good? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so now we're going to jump into our governance handbook. And like I said, we're just going to reflect on our governance handbook, make sure the content is correct, and then it will be brought back to you to approve at a regular board meeting. So Claudia, I'll share the screen on that one. Grab that. Okay, so starting off with that beautiful Moreno Valley governance handbook. Okay, and then
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but when I was reviewing it earlier, I noticed a few spelling errors. You all will go through all that. You don't want to, we're not going to waste time pointing those things out, right?
Was there spelling errors? Wow. Okay. All right.
Well, I mean, it's not a spelling error, it's a typo. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. We'll Claudia and I are going to go over this after we're done today, after we make our corrections.
It's the word communicate, and it's or communicating. It has a number 4 in it. So.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
I saw that. So we'll fix that. So again, we have our board members. We're going to put the date adopted on the front, the purpose of our governance handbook, table of contents. And so you guys.
May I interrupt for a minute?
Yes, go ahead.
And I apologize for this, but I think this is an important factor for me. I don't know for my colleagues, but for me, this is important.
Okay.
You know, the Board of Trustees is listed there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that because we're doing this and adopting this year, I believe that Mr. Peden's name should be at the top as the president. And then, you know, list the board as, you know, in the ranking. I think it is important that that be stamped, you know, for the history of this book, because it was done this year. You know, in my opinion, I don't know if my other colleagues think the same way.
Okay. Any other opinions on that, guys?
I noticed that the first time I opened that page, but then I thought, okay, well, it's alphabetical order, you know, so I just went.
Okay. Everyone good with listing President Peden first? Okay. All right. So we'll make that change, Claudia. I'll make a note of that. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Holguin, for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesus.
It's the right thing to do. I mean, you have the title, and then you list us all as trustees, but it should be listed as president, I believe.
Okay. All right. Thank
Again, my
you.
opinion.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, and you guys did work on your mission and vision. So, Dr. Locke, could I have you read the mission statement, please? It's the first sentence on the page.
We will provide an equitable education for all students to be prepared for college and or a viable career path for a successful life.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. K, when did you guys revamp your mission?
Well, it started in August of the prior year. And then in December of this year, this past year, 2020, the board approved the new strategic plan and the new, what we did was when the pandemic happened, you know, when we were in March, when we went into, you know, quarantine lockdown, we just continued to work on it. And actually, we had greater participation than we had when we were meeting in person and doing groups, because people were more, you know, they were more involved, I guess, or didn't have other things to do. I don't know what it was, but it was truly a more collective effort, and there was more ownership of this than there's ever been. So it was very, we're very proud of what was created and developed over that time with students, community, business partners, the board, a combination of many, many different resources.
Wow, wow, that's awesome. And which stakeholders were involved, Dr. K? Everyone, like.
Well, I mean, we have
mentioned a
a LCAP stakeholders group that has met since the inception of the LCAP. However,
Okay.
It's morphed over time. But at those meetings, when they were online, the attendance was, there's about 80 to 100 people, and there were about 80 to 100 people every time. And so I was very, I was like, wow. I was thinking, I'm gonna keep doing Zooms, and then, the students were very involved. We have a student LCAP group, and they became involved at a deeper level because they spent more time, and they also had different needs that were emerging that they got to voice, like headphones and mice, things that they told us that we could immediately do. We didn't wait for the LCAP to get done. We were responding to their immediate needs. And then our business partners, we have another group of people called Hearts United.
Okay.
That came out of the tragedy of Diego, and it's a group of clergy and business people. And they became more involved in this and helped, develop that and got people in their own, parishes or, congregations to become involved. But it was truly more collective, and it wasn't just buy-in, it was ownership. And it really developed into something that people, when they hear it or know this, they're more committed to it. There's a deeper commitment. So we're very proud of what was we were able to do in spite of a pandemic.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that too. And like you said, I think the powerful thing you said, Dr. K, was like when people create it together, they have ownership, right? And so it creates a team mentality in your district with all the stakeholders and especially the students, building their capacity for leadership. So that's wonderful to hear. Any other reflections from board members on the mission statement? Okay. All right, let's go to the vision. Susan, could you read that for us, please? The vision.
Sorry.
No problem.
To empower students to become future ready and positively impact the world.
Wow. And it was created the same way, Dr. K, the vision?
They were done at the same time.
Perfect. Perfect. Any reflections from the board members on the vision statement?
Short and sweet. I like it.
Yep, me too. It's beautiful.
And I think it reflects the equitable concept that is stated in the mission too. Without even saying the word, it's embedded there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Great work, guys. Okay, so going down to the philosophy of the Board of Education, I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes just to review the philosophy and see if we want to, we still are in agreement on that philosophy. I know it probably took a lot to create it, so we probably won't make changes to it now, but I'd just like everyone to read it and reflect on it. So I'll give you a couple minutes just to browse it real quick. See if I can go up. Where does it end? Keep it right there. You have it in the governance handbook also, guys. up a little bit. And it ends with all students can learn and succeed. All right, board members, please jump in. I'd like to hear what resonates with you, what stands out to you with this philosophy. So if you could have one thing that, you know, just kind of hits home with you and share it, I'd appreciate that.
I'm just jumping. I mean, I think, you know, really what sums it up is the second paragraph. The future of our nation and community depends on students possessing the skills to be lifelong learners and effectively contributing members of society.
Yes, sir. That's powerful. That's powerful. Building the capacity. And you know, one thing that brings me to is like when you were creating your mission and vision, really including that student group, right? And having them participate in that is powerful. And you're, you know, they're going to be our future leaders, and getting them on that path is really important. So thank you, Daryl. I appreciate that. Thank you. Other reflections, guys?
I'd like to just, wait a minute, what did I just do here? You know, the part, the sentence that says early identification of student learning and behavioral difficulties contributes to student success.
Yep.
And it reminds me of what I said when I was speaking about some of the things that Dr. Ketziora has done. And to me, that statement right there describes him accurately. And I'm sure my colleagues and everybody else remember this because it was something that I had never seen before. I was very intrigued by it, but I was also very happy when we had our, Vista del Lago, that awards night. But the point I was trying to make is my colleagues remember this. Dr. Ketziora had a young kid. I'm not even sure what grade he was in. I'm sure he was probably in elementary, but he was dressed in a suit, tuxedo.
Yes.
And he was the superintendent. And I thought, what the heck is that? And then I realized what that was. And so when I read this sentence right here, this is it exactly. Identify students learning behavioral difficulties and contribute to their success. So this kid didn't have difficulties, but what Dr. Ketziora did for that student that night is it's going to help his success in the future.
Right.
To be out like that and dressed the way he was. So he knows that when he's out in public and he's standing out, he should stand out. And that means dress as well. So I appreciated him doing that. And so when I read that, that's what I think of. You just
Right.
you just don't see people doing that.
Right. And you know, that sentence, CJ, also reminds me of an equity piece, right? That you're providing for every student, not just the GATE students, not just the AP students. You're looking at every student in the district and giving them what they need when they need it, right?
Yes.
And that's powerful. Great work, guys. Thank you, CJ. Other reflections, Susan or Dr. Locke or Jesus?
I like to point out that one area that is very important in education, not only for this district, but everywhere, is the parent and family engagement.
Yeah.
There's a couple of paragraphs where parents are mentioned specifically. It's almost at the top. It says parent guardians have a right and responsibility to participate in the child's education.
Yeah.
And I think that, yes, absolutely, we're naming that they have the right, but they also have the responsibility. So that's the parent engagement piece. We need them to be part of the process. So that is listed there. And then towards the bottom, I believe the fourth line from the bottom, it says effective communication, trust, respect, and teamwork with all stakeholders, including parents again, and other community members help build support for our schools. And again, there's the parent family engagement concept, which is so critical in education, because it's not just the work of the teachers and educators in general, but like we say, everything starts at home. but working in collaboration with the parents and the families, the whole process can be done much more effectively. So I just wanted to point that out there too.
Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, and that's also an equity piece, right? You're engaging all parents. Like you're having meetings when most people are able to come. The blessing of Zoom, like Dr. Kay said, is people are able to join these meetings in mass, and they weren't before, right? And we were always trying to encourage people to join our LCAP meetings, our stakeholder meetings. And now through Zoom, a lot of people are able to do it when they weren't able to do that before. But I know you guys in Moreno Valley do an excellent job of engaging your parents. I'm always bragging about your parent ambassador program. I thought that was cutting edge. That was genius to think of a way to engage all groups of parents. So kudos to you guys. That is a great program, and I'm always bragging on that. So anyways, Susan or Dr. Locke, do you have any reflections on this?
Mine is the idea that I like the first paragraph where it says every student, regardless of gender, special needs, social, ethnic, language, or economic, background, so I think that's important, because even though you may focus on certain groups because, the need, reminder that it's every student.
Yep, perfect. And I think equity is woven through this philosophy in a very good way. Like, it's very apparent that you guys are focused on equity, which is good. Susan, thank you, Dr. Locke. Susan, do you have a reflection?
Not too much. I'm glad to see that early identification of student learning and behavioral difficulties contributes to student success. There was a time when this district did not help students that had behavioral or academic problems, when students that are struggling were shunted aside and not helped. And I'm glad to see that this has changed. And that
Perfect.
we are working with those students. There was a time probably 20 years ago when they couldn't wait to get those students somewhere else. Even
Right.
dropping out and being at home, when we had such a high dropout rate and such a low graduation rate. And I'm glad that we have overcome that and are now working with all of our students.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, I mean, continuous improvement, right? Now you have supports in place to make every child successful, for the ability for every child to succeed. So thank you. That's really important. Dr. Kay, any reflections on this or anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm comfortable with it. I appreciate, I really am, it's great reminders and also reinforces the vision and the mission of the district. And they're great tenets to refer back to guide us as we do work. And when people, I want to give you an example today.
Yes, please.
Eden contacted me about a student, and, I appreciated that he contacted me, but when I was working with the principal and I was working with the special ed department, it wasn't so much that the board president called me, it was more, what are we going to do for this student,
Mm-hmm.
and how are we going to help this family feel better about what they're experiencing? Because, when Daryl was describing some things to me and the principal, I wasn't looking at this, but now that I'm looking at it, I feel like that's what was happening and what is happening, So I think that's an important piece to, sometimes, it gives you pause when you hear things and you think you need to remind people of this, or you need to reinforce this, or, remember this, because, it's not just, getting tutoring. It's more like, what does the family feel in the system, that you're part of? And so I just, it was great, to hear this and to build a deeper understanding of it.
Right. And reflecting on the climate and culture, you know, that's so important. Like, do families feel like they're included and important, you know, in their child's education? Super important.
Well, you
And,
know, not to belabor this, but, you know, it was real interesting to me because Daryl had been talking to the family, and so they had a different interpretation of what happened in the meeting.
mhm,
And the principal had a whole different interpretation of what happened in the meeting.
yeah,
And the principal said to me, I thought everything was fine. And I said, well, that's what happens. People leave, they don't say anything there. And then
yeah,
they start to feel things and think things. And then they find a trusted person that they want to talk to. And then they hope that someone through them will listen and develop another way of them getting the information or the support that they need. And so, you know, it was really, as we went through this, I was thinking of that just recent experience, you know, and how it helps to review these things and to remember why we're here, you know.
exactly. Thank you, Dr. K. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the kids. You know, whenever I'm teaching my new board members institute, I'm always talking about we need to be focused on the children. And if you make every decision with the focus on the students, you're not going to go wrong, right? We make difficult decisions, but if we keep them at the top of our list, we're going to make the best decisions for the school district. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Guys, we're at 9:52. Why don't we take like a 8-minute break, come back at 10, and then we'll jump into what we need from each other. So grab a coffee, go to the bathroom, and let's start up again at 10 o'clock.
I'll do it when we come back.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
it was just on the philosophy on the top when Dr. Locke read that out.
Okay.
I realized that we don't have race in there. I'm wondering if the board would agree that we probably should include every student regardless of gender, special needs, social, ethnic, race, language, or economic background.
I
Great.
thought that I'd like to put that in too.
Okay. We'll make a note of that. So first sentence.
We just need to include race,
Okay.
unless there's an objection.
Grace. Okay, got that. All right, guys, let's take a small break. We'll come back at 10 and get started on what we need from each other. Thank you. There we go. Go ahead, President Peden.
All right, and we're back. It's 10:02. I don't want to labor it more, but since we're listing out regardless of gender, special needs, social, ethnic, race, language, or economic background, I think it's also important that we list sexual orientation in here as well, because we don't want to leave out our LGBTQ plus community and our brothers and sisters in that space either.
That wasn't included in gender.
Yeah, there's gender and then there's sexual orientation, which are two different things. To answer that question, Ms. Smith, those are two different areas.
Okay. All right, everyone in agreement to add sexual orientation to that list?
Sure.
Yes, I'm fine with it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, President Peden, for bringing that up.
And of course, since we're listening, there's also probably a need to include religion in there as well.
Okay.
And I think that probably would cover all the bases.
Okay. Perfect. We will add religion to. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's important that we make a list and everyone's included.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
No problem. Okay, so guys, we're going to go down to, here we go. What board members need from one another. And I just want you to go through those bullets make sure, do we need to take something out? Do we need to add a bullet? Just reflect on that and make sure, especially after this pandemic, we talked about it a little bit about, our relationship as a governance team and what it looks like. So if there's something you'd like to add in those bullets, please let me know and we'll add it. And let's have a little conversation about that. So jump in when you're ready to share. The one that really resonates with me that I think is so important is listening to understand and not to respond, right? Really trying to understand that your fellow trustees and where they're coming from. And that's important to make a strong governance team, right? We all come from different walks of life, different perspectives, but really honoring everyone's perspective is important.
Yeah, I would also add, I think, assume good intentions is important. Just as an example, I mean, just the other day before a board meeting, I received some documents. Of course, there's certain things that are really important to me that I'm looking for, or looking to make sure these things are not in, these items.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But, and I was having this conversation with Dr. Kidzior because, when you are looking for something, more than likely you're going to find it. But what happened was that, I was looking at the wrong document, right? When in fact, that wasn't in the document. I was looking at the wrong document, but because I was so caught up in just looking for something, I wasn't looking at the big picture. So I think assuming good intentions is really important.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that's important for the relationship, of course. And, trust. I keep going back to the pandemic, but during a pandemic, your stakeholders are looking to you as educational leaders, right? You're not always going to agree on everything, but if you show respect to each other and, during your deliberations and your conversations on the dais, it's going to trickle down to your administration, everyone in your district. So that's really important too. Any other reflections, guys, or anything you'd like to add or take out?
I want to add one piece, which, but I have to state this first. It's happening in the district, and I don't think it is an issue today. But down the road, when there's, when I leave and other board members come, or when Dr. Kitzera leaves and other superintendent comes, I think it is important to list under the what board members need from the superintendent is and I'm not sure if this is the right label, administrative support or support, and I'm talking about specifically here about what Claudia does for us. It's just an amazing piece that keeps us all on our toes every single day. But I think this is unique. And when Dr. Kitzera leaves, when Claudia leaves, when I leave, I'm not sure that it's going to happen again, but I think it is critical. So I would like to list it there, if my colleagues are in agreement with that.
You would want that underneath what the board needs from the superintendent, or which area?
Yes, I think that comes from the superintendent, because, Claudia would do what we need, but she is under the superintendent directly, right?
Can I get that?
So.
Oh, how are you going to word that?
Administrative support, is that how you'd like it to be?
That's what I was thinking, but I'm not sure if that's the right label. I mean, if I'm making sense what I'm explaining. I don't know if that is the
Other
right.
thoughts, guys?
I guess I'm confused because what I'm hearing is that the support that Claudia provides to the Board of Education is what you're referring to, Mr. Holguin? And so if that's the case, wouldn't that be what we as board members need from the superintendent?
Oh, okay.
Right,
Sure,
what board members need from the superintendent.
Okay,
Administrative support, yes.
Is that okay with everyone?
I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
crucial, because if you don't have that piece, I mean, half of us wouldn't be showing up to meetings, getting to where we need to be, having the information we have. So I'm so glad Mr. Holguin brought that up.
Yeah, but again, I want to make it clear that it is there, it is happening during this time. Claudia is doing an excellent job. I just want to make sure that, you know, it's memorialized, I guess, and the
Yes.
document.
So are there times in the past when that has not been available? I mean, Diane was before Claudia, and I felt like she supported us, and Claudia has even gone above and beyond that.
She did, and Claudia, you know, Diane and the previous administrative assistants have done an excellent job, but I'm just thinking that when the superintendent leaves, you know, somebody else comes, and who knows if they have the same kind of, you know, a desire to support the board in that way, in that respect.
Well, and this, you know,
I guess what I
go
want to
ahead.
say is that we have been spoiled by Claudia and previous administrative assistants. So, you know, I'm used to that, and it would be difficult if that support is not there.
Right. Hey, Sus, you brought up a good point too. You know, we have to look at this governance handbook as an onboarding tool for new board members too, right? So this is something that builds their capacity too. So even though we take it for granted, you know, as current board members, we need to let, you know, future board members know too and look down the road. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Super important. I'll tell you, the job Claudia does is amazing.
I'd like to add a few things to that, you know. And
Okay.
I don't know where it fits, or it doesn't probably fit here, but just, you know, is Claudia does go way and beyond. You know, she calls us on weekends, evenings, late at night, mornings. And I think that, and I don't know how to do it, but always keeping that in mind, you know, because you don't want to burn out an employee. You know, and I was really glad that she got the, you know, the promotion, but again, you know, there's a limit to what we can expect her to do, you know, and that doesn't really fit in here. I just wanted to, you know,
Okay.
note that, because it is, I mean, I know nobody else can, you know, expect to call us, you know, late at night or in the morning. So, you know, I think that's very much appreciated, but, you know, Claudia, you can't leave because another person may not fit within their schedule. You know, they have a life, or somebody could have a family and that, but she just makes it work because she's like Dr. K 24/7 basically. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Was there another thing, Dr. Locke, that you wanted to add to besides that?
No, I just wanted to note that as
Okay.
we put this together to keep in mind, and I don't know where that fits.
Okay.
It may not fit in this at all, but just as a good governance team,
Yes.
you know, because she goes way and beyond. As long as everyone has her, you're okay. But, you know, the expectation really exceeds the position.
Maybe being mindful of support staff's time, or how does that sound correct, Dr. Locke? Or
I somehow I think it does. I think we are. I don't think anyone asked, but
right.
It's just the nature of who Claudia is and what she does. But I sometimes, I worry about Dr. Kadziora all the time, 24/7, and I see Claudia doing some of the same things, and you know, I just think that's something, you know, as a board, you know, we need to keep abreast of that, and, you know, sort of sometimes saying, hey, you don't need to do this. It's okay not to do this, you know.
So I'm going to put, just as a placeholder, be mindful of workload of support staff, and then Claudia and I, when we go over it afterwards, then we can wordsmith it a little bit, or if you guys have ideas of exactly how you want it to sound,
So I think
in.
I hope none of us ask her to do extra things other than, you know, what she does already, but it's just, that's always something that's on my mind, you know, being in education for, you know, a long time, and seeing what she does. And well, and I've never met a superintendent like Dr. Kadziora. That's never turned off, you know. So I just think as a board, you know, for both of those people, we need to keep that in mind, because we want them to be healthy, you know, so, and enjoy life also.
I agree with that.
And we'll make it sound better. That's just like a note to myself. So I'll wordsmith that a little bit. Any other reflections on what board members need from one another? Okay. So what the superintendent needs from the board, Dr. K, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Maybe they might want to add something.
So anything you guys want to add under what the board members need from the superintendent? Professional, ethical communication, timely, meet with members quarterly, equal communication among members, full disclosure, explanations of recent incidents, events, no surprises, respect, and we put admin support up. Where did we do that? Yeah, right there. Any reflections, guys?
I'm thinking about something. And Mr. Peden can identify with this one. And I'm going to use a football analogy. If a player did something outstanding or consistently does things outstanding, somehow the head coach will bring that out and make sure everybody sees it and everybody understands it, as well as the player. And I think the same thing about Dr. Ketchur. What the superintendent needs from the board is that, and Daryl, you can help me if you understand what I'm saying. When Tom is doing a great job and he's constantly doing a great job as a football player, you're going to tell him that. And so the other folks are going to hear it and they're going to want to do the same thing as Tom. Well, how often do we say something about the superintendent? Because I don't see anything here that talks about what we do for him or for her or the superintendent. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Daryl, do you understand what I'm talking about?
No, I absolutely do. I think it's I don't know if it's so much about like celebration. I know you're writing that word, but it just pops in my head. I mean, one of the things that I'm always trying to get better at, just in like my day job and everything, is that recognizing the need for what Mr. Johnson is saying. You know, for folks that are your employees and your staff, there is a need for ensuring that you are acknowledging the work that your staff and folks that work, your colleagues, are doing, and especially for the folks that oversee their work, et cetera. So I do think Mr. Johnson's right on cue, and we need to make sure that, because you might have some board members that come on, new board members, and they don't really understand or know how to deliver that, right? They don't have that tool belt. Maybe they haven't been trained to do that. But when you're in this type of leadership, in any leadership, and you have people working under you, that is important, and it should be noted. Absolutely. I don't know how to note that, but I think Terry's an expert in this. She can.
I put Holder communicate successes, and I'll work on that a little bit. But I think that's really important. You know, people don't understand the complexity of the superintendent job. You know, everything that they're responsible for and everything that's done on a day-to-day basis. And like you guys alluded to, you know, 24/7, right? Dr. K, we had a conversation at, what time was it? 10:30 last night, because that's the first time he had a break where he could give me a call, right? That's how hard he works. So I think it's really important to recognize hard work and the dedication to the district. So
Jerry, I wish you hadn't said that I called you at 10:30 because I was going to call Daryl back and I didn't. And I texted him. And so I called him this morning, but anyway, I go, I'm called.
You should know by now that I have a very, very short memory. I don't even remember what, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that we needed to like touch bases before the workshop, but I appreciate, you're one of the hardest working superintendents that I've ever seen, Dr. K. I'd like to add that, you know, you get back to, if I text you, literally, I can expect a text back really soon. And you're just always on the ball that way. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I love that you guys are talking about this, right? Communicating the successes and you know, just acknowledging how hard people are working day in and day out for the students in the district. So thank you. CJ, I thank you for bringing that up.
Yes. And I'm sure my colleagues know too, because I think I've said it, I shouldn't say I think, I've said it before. I don't have anything to do sometimes, so I just get in my car and I drive over to the district. There's only one doggone car in the parking lot.
Dr. K.
Yeah, I just can't believe it. I just cannot believe it.
Yeah, he's amazing. So yeah, this feels really good, you guys. I mean, it feels like you've always been a cohesive board, but it just feels that you guys are even tighter now. So I want to recognize that. Thank you.
Can I add one more piece?
Yes, Jesus, please do.
And I think this is important too. And I'm hoping that my colleagues agree with me. And I think we talked about this before. One thing under what the board members need from the superintendent, in my opinion, we need for him to take care of himself.
Yeah.
You know, because that hard work and everything he does and the timing and, you know, 24 hours a day and stuff, it takes a toll on person. So I think it is critical that he, you know, he takes the necessary steps to take care of himself. You know, I don't know. And I know it's difficult for him to take time off, but I think it's needed every once in a while, you know, medical attention and, you know, all those pieces. So I would,
Perfect.
you know, I would like to, if it's possible to list it, if not, you know, not that, but I think that is critical.
Yeah, I mean, just like the other day, I mean, the Moreno Valley High School basketball team, boys basketball team was celebrating, and who was there with them? The superintendent.
I agree. I think it definitely needs to be in there. I would say though, if we look at this document 10 years from now, all we see is self-care. We may not know what
Okay,
you know
yeah.
what Mr. Hogan is referring to. So I think we do need to on that be very specific on that.
Right.
This is
Okay.
speaking to the superintendent taking care of himself and not being burnt out and acknowledging that.
Okay.
We can almost put his name there, right?
10 years from now, whole game will still be here. No problem.
Oh, man.
Terry, I just want
Yes.
to say that we have these 11 commitments to create excellence on purpose. And one of the commitments is about mental health, social, emotional, physical. It's about taking care of yourself. So it might be a good idea, Claudia, for y'all to include that commitment there because it spells it out a little more.
Okay. Claudia, do you have that? You have that language?
Yes, I'll put it in.
Okay, thank you.
Because we go over this with the principals in principals meetings and talk
Okay.
about these 11 commitments. And that one is one they point out to me more often than not, because when they're asked to do something, but I say, of course, but that's it's in there, and it is important.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
And then Terry, you took off admin support. Is there a reason, or are we going with?
Well,
we're going to go with.
I put it. I thought I.
So
put
it should be underneath what board members need from superintendent. Of what
Okay.
Mr. Holguin referred to as admin support.
Okay,
Am I wrong on that, or that?
I'll take this. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's the right place, right?
Okay.
No, but we want that still.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, those are two different things.
Okay. Be mindful of.
Like Dr. Locke was referencing that we need admin support, as Mr. Holguin put in what we need from the superintendent, but also
Okay.
being mindful that because if there is new board members, et cetera, that they can take advantage of that admin support. And Dr. Locke wanted to put something to mitigate that. And that's why she put being mindful of superintendent staff support time.
Maybe add the word reasonable administrative support,
Okay.
to mitigate some of that, what Dr. Locke is saying. But I think Dr. Locke has a great point. We want that to have that support. With at the same time, we want to make sure it's not abused, because we don't want to abuse of the employees'
Okay.
abilities.
And then fixed. Be mindful. Daryl, help me out with this bullet, please.
I
Be
think it was
mindful.
be mindful. It's exactly what you wrote. Be mindful of
Okay.
superintendents, administrative staff, support staff's time. I think that's something like that you wrote.
Okay.
If I can add something to that too, when we're talking about the administrative staff, is also being mindful of the superintendent's time, because I think, I think as the board now we are, but when we ask him for things, putting, I know we do that, say we don't need this right now, we can get this later, and understanding that really it's okay if he doesn't go to everything and he does have a life, so I think it's like being mindful of his time, because he wants to please us and do the best job possible, but we have to give him the permission, verbal permission, to slow down sometimes. We don't expect you to be there. It's okay. But I think if we have that expectation, hey, are you going to go to the game? You're going to do this, that. He's going to, I got to go. And, and I just think we just have to also, be mindful to support him and ask, to go do something else and take his vacation, go visit family. We will survive, we'll manage through.
Right.
But he just needs that from us as a board, not to add things to him or expectations,
Okay. So does that kind of cover it? I put "and," so it's referring to the superintendent and the admin support time. Okay.
So it's not with the superintendent, it's not a support, it's just be mindful of, his time. Oh, admin, I see what you mean. It's the superintendent time, administrative support
Yes.
time. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll fix it between Claudia and I. We'll fix the language so it looks good at the.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I mean, I really appreciate that you're having the empathy that you have for your superintendent and what he does on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for that. I think that's really important to make the governance team stronger and cohesive, right? When you acknowledge the workload of what everyone's going through. So,
Ms. Smith, were you going to say something? I thought I heard you say something earlier. No? Oh, okay.
okay.
No, not at all.
Okay. Any other reflections on these three sections?
No.
Okay. All right. So this is my favorite part. What are we most proud of in the district? And so we have quite a list, but is there something else that you guys would like to add or take off or, include in this list? There's so much in Moreno Valley to be proud of. I know we could probably go on for 2 pages of what we're proud of, but anyways, take a peek at this list and see if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Yeah, here's one. How about innovation and technology?
Okay.
I'd like to add the focus on social emotional for students and staff.
Say that once again, Dr. Locke, please.
I said the focus on the social emotional needs of students and staff. Because I really think we're making a lot of gains in that area.
International programs.
International programs, Jesus.
Can we put something that reflects the work that we do when we respond to the community's needs? I mean, just noting the work that we've done during this pandemic, but even before the pandemic, we're always being responsive to the needs of our community because we understand how those needs are correlated with educational outcomes, whether it be feeding the community, et cetera. I mean, we literally were giving away food and not even asking whether or not they
Right.
are attending the district, right?
And I'll make that sound better. I just want a placeholder to remind myself. Yeah, you guys do a fantastic job with that. And, you know, one of the things that I'm proud of what you do in Moreno Valley is your communication. Like, I've never seen a district have so many town halls, so many like virtual town halls, phone town halls where people can call in, you know, which is critical during a pandemic, but it's critical all the time, you know, that you're communicating to your stakeholders, and you guys do an amazing job of that.
Can we put that in there? I don't know if we have that. That'd
Yeah,
be
I don't
good.
think
Yeah.
you have communication.
Yeah, we should put that.
Yeah, let's put that, because that stands out to me.
Our community wellness center.
And I would also add, I was talking to Dr. Kizior about this the other day. I don't know, it wasn't specific to this, but I think I mentioned it, was that one of his strengths is promoting the excellence of our district and always being in promotion mode. And as a CEO of an educational institution, I mean, that's extremely important. I mean, sometimes we can look at that as, you know, maybe we shouldn't be so focused on it, but when you really kind of pan out, right, and you take a look at the overall, the big picture of it, that is so important that we communicate the excellence and we continue to make sure that we are doing that. Is just important for the brand, important for the district in the short run and long term.
Mm-hmm. President Peden, I would like to add on to that. You know, one of the, I guess, worries or concerns that a lot of districts are having is, are our kids going to come back after the pandemic? Are they going to go to charters? Are they going to go to different learning centers? You know, what does that look like? And by promoting the good things that are happening in the district, there's nothing wrong with beating your own drum, because people need to know the good things that are going on in the district. So I agree with you that is really important, you know, that we celebrate the excellent things that are going on day to day for kids, because parents have choices of where to send their kids. And I was leading a conversation at CSBA with a group of superintendents, and they were saying that 10 to 30% of students might not come back, and how do you mitigate that? And one of the ideas was what you just mentioned, is talking about the excellent things that are going on in our district and how we're providing for students, you know, every student. So yeah, I think that's really important.
I would add the word intentional, because, you know, you can run an organization and just be promoting just for the sake of promoting because you don't want to deal with the, you know, for the lack of a better term, the dirt, right? Or the issues that are actually going on in the district, or your specific organization that you're running. A lot of people do that, right? They create all this fluff so they, and in the means, so they can ignore all of the stuff that they really have to deal with. But that's not what's happening in this district, right? So it's not just about promoting district excellence, but it's about being intentional with that promotion, which is important because it really needs to be intentional. And there's a reason why we're doing it, or why Dr. Kizior really focuses on it. I mean, I just want to, you know, obviously just acknowledge that work because it's
important.
It is intentional.
Does that make sense, Daryl?
Yeah.
Being intentional with promoting district excellence. Okay. Yeah.
So I have a couple more, if I may.
Yes, sir.
One of them is, well, actually, I have three more, if you don't mind.
No problem.
One, I like to say something about fiscal stability, because I think it is important too. It's not happening everywhere, but it's happening here. So I'm very proud of that. And then the other one is the developments in the facilities, building and remodeling. That is something that is giving the district a much, much better image everywhere. Not just the new school in Edgemont, but the Performing Arts Center, the building on Moreno Elementary, and Canyon Springs High School, and on and on and on and on. So that's something that we should be proud. I mean, I'm proud of.
Mhm.
And then the last one, the third one that I would like to mention that comes to mind at this point is the explosion in the visual and performing arts programs. That's something that I'm extremely proud. So,
Okay, say the last one again, Jesus, please.
well, I just said explosion in the visual and performing arts program. I mean, you don't have to use the explosion.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my expression. Visual and performing arts. Yeah.
You can
Maybe
put a meme right
promotion.
by it too.
Would it be promotion or expansion? Expansion?
Expansion. Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. Expansion in visual and performing arts programs.
We're gonna just keep listening, but this is important.
Yeah.
The paying attention to details. I've heard this many times from Dr. Kidziora, and even while we were walking around the campuses during the graduation, and as we said, we had a time to kind of like step back and be in the moment. And just the conversation that I was having with folks is how important every detail is, everything that we do. And we really need to hold on to that.
Right.
And we need to make sure that that continues on in terms of the culture in this district, paying attention to the details in every detail. I mean, even with Dr. Kidziora mentioning, hey, this brand new building should have been in the front of the school so people could see it. That's a detail that's very important to note.
Culture of detail. Culture of detail. Help me with that, Gerald.
The only thing I can say is, in my mind, is just culture of paying attention to the details. I'm not the greatest with being fancy with words, but I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I'll just put it this way. Culture of paying attention
to the details.
Okay. All right. Other reflections, Dr. Locke or Susan or CJ?
No, I have something, but I don't think it fits here.
Okay.
What? Let me see.
All right. Well, that's a great list. And like President Peden said, we could probably go on for page after page after page. But I think it's important that we look and really celebrate what we're proud of in the district. A lot of times we're focused on the challenges instead of the successes that we have right now. So thank you for that.
Terry?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Terry?
Oh,
good.
You can go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Dr. Kidziora. Okay, Terry.
Yes.
So what are we most proud of in the district, right? Okay, I'm going to be the elephant in the room, and I'm just going to say it. Something that is so obvious to me that I tell my family and friends, so I may as well just bring it to the forefront. We've got 4 traditional high schools, and all of us attended the graduations. And I saw something that I don't think I've ever seen before. Every principal that we saw was a female. And when you look at the principals, the makeup of the principals, we saw a nice mixture of African-American females. And I don't think it was done just because. I think it was done because Dr. Ketchiora took a look at his staff, and he really put the best people in those positions. I sat there and I watched them and I listened to them, and I thought, man, you know, it took, no, I'm not going to say it took. I thought it had to take a lot of guts to pull that off, because you know that some people are going to say something.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, if you had the opposite, some people would definitely say something.
Right.
I hope everybody understood why. I mean, my colleagues, I'm talking about the community. Help everybody understand why it was done. Dr. Ketchiora, as far as I'm concerned, has a pretty good reputation, and I'm sure that the community will agree with me. He chose the very best people to put in those spots. And I took notice, and I'm hoping that everybody else, I don't mean the board, I'm talking about the community, took notice as well and understood why and the reasons that those folks were put in those spots.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. I watched a video, and it was of an African-American principal in Philadelphia. And the quote that I remember that he said is, "I was once you, so you could be me." You know what I mean? And I think it's powerful when the student population can see themselves in the administrators and the teachers, and you know, the diversity of your administrators and teachers is very important.
Yes. And so we have a superintendent who's got the foresight, and I'll use the word gut, pull that off.
Right. Thank you.
And know, the principal know that they have pressure on them. They know that, and I've been with him on visits, and I've seen it. I've seen it, and I've seen the pressure that some people are under, but they're also performing as well.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Thank you, CJ. Dr. K, you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how wonderful it is that that this list has been created, because you know, when I came to work here 10 years ago, it'll be 10 years in July, and you know, it was I lived here, and you know, when I came here and I asked people what they were proud of, nobody could tell me anything. And I asked people what they were working on, and they said, whatever they tell us to do.
Oh.
And you know, it was just this resignation that you know, we're just in this place where this is like, I asked someone what were they doing about the graduation rate, and they said, what are we supposed to be doing? And you know, it's not that way today. And I think, you know, I want to say the board, you know, their vision and their support, their dedication, their visibility, you know, they have a real influence on these, you know, what you just listed. And people, when they come and they're there, it really matters to them. You know, like they said, we didn't have this before. We didn't always see people. We didn't even know who the superintendent was. It would be lucky if we met them. They even talked to us. And they said, you know, now the board comes with you, you know, you bring them with you, we talk to them, and, you know, that means a lot to an organization. But I think that I want the board to know that you have you know, your influence is greater. You know, actions speak louder than words, and your actions are the reason why, you know, these things have continued to be improved, and people feel, you know, connected more to the organization. There's a greater connection. So I just, you know, I think all of that says that. And, you know, I was teaching a class, you know, I teach at different universities, and I had some students from Moreno Valley. I had, you know, I was working here, but I didn't know they worked here. I was talking about my new position, and this is when I first came here, and I said, what an exciting opportunity we have to change the lives of 34,000 kids. And
Right.
this teacher said, I've never heard anybody say that in the 25 years I've worked here. No one's ever said what an exciting opportunity and how wonderful this is. And, I think for kids too, when they, like when you meet different kids, they look at you and they think, well, what could you do for, like, do you care about me, And,
Yeah.
and I think, that's what the board in their presence gives to children, because when I was a principal, I used to turn around, at a assembly, and I'd say to the school, look at all these adults here. And even if your adult in your life isn't here, all of these adults are here for you. They came today for all of you. And, I'd give them a big hand, but then I'd have kids say, this is so funny. They'd say, well, which one came for me? So, I have to figure out something, but, they're looking for something. They're always
Yes.
looking for something. And I think that, that's what they're given here. And I think I want to thank the board because to develop a list like this and to know these things, that's really powerful, because a lot of people, like I said, when I first came here, there was no list like this. And that wasn't what people said. And people said to me, do you know where you're at? And I said, I live here. And they said, how long have you lived here? I said, like 25 years at that point. Years. But there's something about believing and visioning and realizing, what's possible. And that happens through a small group of people sometimes, that influence others in a very impactful way. So I really appreciate what people said and what they added here. So thank you.
I like this one. Do you guys like that? Because this is like what I'm getting is the positive climate and culture of your district. I used to do superintendent searches, and I would talk to different stakeholders and what they want as a leader for their district, right? And I'll never forget, I was talking to a student group, and there was a young boy, he was probably, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade. And I'm like, well, what's important to you as, in your new superintendent that's coming? And he said, he goes, he knows my name. He knows my name. And I think that's what, God, I'm getting all teary eyed, like, stop it, Terry, what's going on? But, it does my heart so good to hear this, that, this is what we're about, is empowering our children and making them feel like they're wanted, they're important. And this is a conversation that we're having by listing all these different bullet points. So thank you for that. I just really appreciate all the good things that are going on in Moreno Valley. Is there any other reflections or anything else that someone would like to add to the list?
Yeah, if I may, please. I listened to Dr. Katsiora, and there was a lot of truth in what he's saying, that in the past, the culture was different. And there was a point in time where there was very little of non-recognition on the work of the people that were working here. And not to diminish the work of the people that worked here in the past. I mean, there was a lot of good things happening, but I have to say that Mr. Peden's point about intentional, where's that item?
Being intentional with promoting district excellence.
And that's a good point, because there was a point in time that there was a need to say, what are the good things that are happening in the district in a public setting, so that people would know. Number one, people that work in the district, and then of course the students ahead. The students needed to know that they're attending a school district that is really putting attention to their needs. And then the staff working needed to be recognized, but then the community needed to know, or we needed the community to know what was happening in the district, because we wanted to have the collaboration from the community, from the different organizations, and on and on and on. So there was a need to do that intentionally. So that's a good point right there. And then the other piece was that as we moved through the years, there was a need to bring that innovation, that creativity, and that piece that you know, something is missing here, something is missing there. Why is it that the students are going somewhere else? What are we missing here that we need to implement so that students stay with us? And
Right.
how do we have to do it? Because it's not just adding a program just for adding a program. It's, again, intentionality there. Intentionally adding the IB program so that students don't have to go somewhere else.
Right.
Increasing the VAPA programs, changing the stadiums, you know, the fields, because they were going somewhere else to play because the fields were better somewhere else. So all that intentionality, creativity, and putting all those pieces together, there was a point in time that there was the need for that. So you know, it's a lot of work, but we needed to have the buy-in from the community as a whole, not just people working in the district, but the entire community.
Exactly. Exactly. That's important that you know, you talk about that. Again, you know, that a lot of districts are really scared looking at that 10 to 30% of children not returning to, you know, the district classrooms. And by putting all this together, and you guys have some wonderful communication. Dr. K, when you were in the PLN and you brought in that book on Moreno Valley that you created, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. What was the title on that?
It's the yearbook, really. It's
Okay.
It's the district yearbook, but it's a chronology of what happened within that year, and it's given out of the state of the district. And I also give it to realtors at their new home. You know, they're being built.
Yeah.
And I give it to them to have in their model homes and to show people, because sometimes what is online, there's a lag between what's occurring and what's online. And so I take my business cards and, you know, go to the model homes and give those out, because, you know, I found that people would already make a decision when they moved here sometimes to go to someplace else without even knowing what we had, you know. So
Right.
yeah, it's you know, a huge piece of what I use when I meet with the realtors. I meet with you know, anybody I meet with. I take that with me, because I just think it's so valuable, you know, to show people, not just to say it, but give them something to reflect on and take with them, you know.
Yeah, that was a beautiful publication. I loved it. I was like, wow, you know, and you know, people move and buy a house because of the schools and the district. So again, that's genius. And it's just another way of promoting your district with intentionality, like President Peden mentioned. So thank you for that. Yeah, anything else that anyone would like to add to this list? Are we good? Yeah, there's a lot of good going on in Moreno Valley, I can say that. Okay, it's 10:51. Would you like to take, I don't know that we need to go through the roles and responsibilities as deep as we did last time. This is kind of boilerplate CSBA right here with the 5 pillars. We set the direction, we establish the structure, we provide support, we ensure accountability, we serve as community leaders. I think you guys have a good handle on this. But again, this is, you know, this governance book is going to be used as an onboarding tool for future board members. So I think it's important that we keep this in your governance handbook, but we can definitely have a small discussion about, you know, how is it going with roles and responsibilities? Any reflection on that, guys? Everything cool?
Yeah, so far.
Okay. And just, you know, really, like, again, when I'm teaching that new board members institute, like I think Daryl brought up, we always want to assume good intentions, right? People are trying to do the job that they think they should be doing, when in actuality, you know, board members have the, you know, policy job, we're the what, the staff is the how, and just making sure that we're staying in our lane is so important to let the superintendent and his team do their job. You know, the last piece, community leaders, and I think you guys have done a really good, here's your communicating, here's your 4. Look at that. But yeah, so just again, talking about how we act as community leaders for the district. You know, you guys have the Parent Ambassador Program, and I always tell board members, you're the ambassadors for the district, right? People are looking at you for your leadership qualities and what that looks like. So again, any questions on roles and responsibilities, guys? We good there?
I'm good. I read through it. I think it fits well.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so this is a board bylaw, governance standards. Claudia got yours out. The one I had integrated into the other handbook was just kind of the boilerplate. And this is the one that in actuality that you adopted. So this is just board bylaw 9005. Just again, reiterating what our primary goals are as board members, what our responsibilities are. Claudia did a wonderful job with that. Okay, so now we're to the governance team code of ethics. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this. I just want you guys to, you know, again, look through the bullets, see if there's anything you'd like to take out, anything you'd like to add. So I'll just give you a couple minutes to read through those bullets really quick.
I think it looks great, and I can see that we had a long discussion about this in our prior workshop,
Yeah.
and I can see the language that we were trying to be intentional with is here, and so I
Okay.
appreciate all the work that everybody did with this.
Thanks. You know, I just did a workshop recently and there was a new board member and I was talking about, you know, if you vote in the minority, you still have to support the majority vote of the board. And she was so funny. She was like, well, then I lose my individual voice. Like I'm not being heard. And I go, no, you're being heard with your vote, right? And so that's, you know, looking at future boards, that's a really important issue, I think, that new board members need to recognize that, you know, you have to make that transition from I to we, from I to the team. And super important that, you know, even though you vote in the minority, that you support the majority vote. And that doesn't really pertain to you guys, but I see it as something that's happening in other districts that might need to be acknowledged.
I think a lot of that understanding from new board members comes from maybe the culture of the district or the board that they're entering in. Because for most of us that are anybody that runs for elected office are doing it for a specific reason. They're advocating, they're advocates, and the most important thing to them is their voice, and they don't want to lose their voice. So it's really just about sharing with them, just like you said, that you're not losing your voice. Your voice is there. It doesn't just go away. Your vote is your voice. And knowing that you're a part of a board that respects that.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's not so much a question of support, but rather that you're not going to do something to undermine the body's decision, because you are a part of the body, whether you vote no or not. You need to be, you know, execute that in your responsibilities as a member of governing body.
Right.
So you just don't undermine. You have your voice, but you know, those things are important.
Yeah, and then the confidential piece, you know, so critical, so critical. So again, you know, a lot of these bullets are for future board members onboarding, so they kind of understand what they're getting into and what their job is. So thank you guys.
I think that people need to realize that everything is not going to be a 5-0 vote. I think even on this board, people have expected that all votes will be 5-0. And that is just not the case. We're not always going to agree on every
No.
issue. We have to give voice to those who don't agree with us and allow them their time to speak as well, and not just talk over them and not allow them to say what they think because they disagree with us. And I think we need to understand that those minority people do have a voice. We need to listen to that voice, consider what they have to say, and then not just go with our that we already have a position and that we're just going to go with that, and what they have to say isn't important, which I have seen happen a few times since I've been on the board. So I hope we can do that.
No, that's a really good point, Susan. I remember when I was first on my board, you know, I would get my board packet when we had board packets, right? I'm dating myself. And, you know, on my agenda, I would write in the column, you know, I'm going to vote yes for this, I'm going to vote no for this, you know, and just kind of getting my mind straight on how I was going to vote. And one of my other board members said, you know what, Terry, don't come with your mind made up. Like, listen actively to your other board members and their perspective. And a lot of time it changed my mind on how I was going to vote. So I think that's important, because all of us come from different perspectives, different walks of life, and with different experience. And I think that's really important, you know, to come with an open mind when you're discussing issues. And you know what, there's nothing wrong with a split vote. You're not always gonna agree, like Susan said, but at the end of the day, you do agree with the majority and support the majority decision of the board, which is important. Thank you, Susan, for bringing that up. I think that's, you know, really important to understand and to discuss.
And I think this document, I mean, what we're looking at right here took us hours, right? We discussed this in
Yes.
detail, and it was mainly about that point that everybody's making right now.
Yeah.
I think that the language we're using really gets to that. It helps to create that culture where minority is going to feel like their voice is being heard, and they're standing by what they believe in. You know, recognize that a split vote on important policies issue is not disrespectful to opposing board members, but democracy in action. That
Yes.
we respect the process and we're okay with the process, and we, you know, and I'll just leave it there.
No,
Like,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Okay, guys, it's 11 o'clock. Let's take a 5-minute break really quick, and then we'll jump into the norms and the protocols. We're not going to, like I said, we're not going to go deep into it, but I just want to kind of go over it real quick to make sure we're still in agreement of the work we did. So let's come back at 11:06. Grab a cup of coffee or a water or whatever you need.
Thank you.
Thanks.
let me know when.
Ready.
All right, and we are back from our break. It is now 11:08.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, President Peden. And thank you for reminding me that we needed to record. So here we go. These are the governance norms that we created last time. And I just want you to look through these bullets again, make sure we're in agreement, see if we need to take one out, add something. And remembering that this governance handbook is always a living, breathing document. You know, there's always going to be changes made to it in order to keep up with what's going on in the districts and the needs of the district. So if you could look through these bullets, please, and make sure that they're still pertinent to our agreements on how we do business in Moreno Valley.
I think it looks good.
Okay. Any reflections from other trustees on the norms? Susan, Dr. Locke, Jesus, CJ, do you have anything to add or take away on these norms?
No, I think I'm good.
No, thank you. Mhm.
I think this is
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think it covers a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going into our governance team protocols. I think we're going to be done early, guys. I think we don't have that much time to go. So protocols, I always like to explain, they're like the rules to Monopoly, right? So like if we put a Monopoly game down on the table and no one knew the rules, how would we play, right? So this is just going over the rules of engagement really for the district. So we start with the no vote or abstentions. When a member of the governing board casts a no vote or abstains from voting on a particular issue as a courtesy, the member offers, and I'm going to say may offer because, you know, I don't want to put anyone in a position where they have to, but the member may offer a short statement as to the reason for his or her action. And that should be there. So it's gender neutral. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
I think in
Okay.
the past, when somebody has offered a no vote, they've always given a reason.
Okay.
When somebody votes no, I pretty much always know why. I think people have been clear about their feelings, so.
Okay, that's important. That's important, right? And as far as abstentions, you know, we're elected to vote, and the only time that abstentions really should be used if there's a conflict of interest. And so, you know, I in my 24 years, I don't know that I ever abstained from a vote. You know, I never had a reason to do that. But some people use it as a, you know, kind of a way to get out of a hard vote. But again, that's what we're elected to do. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, but okay, that sounds good.
Terry, I was thinking the same thing. And I think that sometimes folks coming into this position, if they're lacking the experience of being an elected official or being in a part of any body that votes, they may or may not really understand what an abstention is and how,
Mhm.
you know, and really understand how it should be used. And that is not, you're not taking, you know, it's not technically a vote. A vote is a yes or no. So I
Right.
don't know, maybe there's something we can reference in this space so that if a new board member is looking at it, they can look, okay, what's an abstention? And they can read some document or some kind of literature that'll kind of give them some knowledge about
Okay.
that. Obviously, it's their choice what they do. I'm with you. I just don't think you should be abstaining unless it's a conflict. You've been elected to take a vote and take a position. I mean, you know, but you know, that's going to be up to them. But at least we can provide them some tools or some resources to understand what a vote is and what an abstention is.
Yes.
I want to say that I agree with that. And just as you mentioned, Terry, maybe because of the reason may be because there's a conflict of interest, or just to clarify, a potential conflict of interest, right? Because may not be there, but the vote may create, or you know, something may come up after that creates a conflict of interest. But
Or
yeah,
the appearance of one also is a reason to abstain.
Right. Yeah. So, but I agree with your concept.
Okay. I'll just leave it at that. Potential conflict of interest. Okay. Hey, someone just rang my doorbell. I think it's my lunch. So I'm going to grab it really quick. 1 second.
And you know, y'all's doorbells might be ringing soon too, so answer it. You don't want to not just sit there. You want to make sure you go and, you know, finish whatever's being delivered because it's door day.
I have mine.
Miss
Oh,
Smith,
nice.
they already brought it to your house?
Yes, they did.
Let me go check my door real fast. They might be sitting out there.
Go check.
Okay, give me one.
Okay.
Someone else might eat it.
I know, right?
Dr. Locke? Is she there?
She's gone
Yes,
down to the
Mr.
door.
Johnson.
Oh, she went down to get her.
No, Mr. Johnson, what? I'm still,
What? Did you get two or did you just get one?
I got none.
Oh, okay. Hey guys, that's a joke. She got it though. I know you guys wonder what's he talking about.
Nothing yet, just a
No,
package. but-
I'm teasing her, Terry. I'm teasing her for a reason. She knows.
I know. That's okay, Mr. Johnson. You'll always be
That's
my,
all right. Yeah.
maybe the only one, but that's okay.
All right, we'll wait till, Daryl, are you back?
Yeah, I don't have anything yet, so
Okay,
it
all
was just a
right,
package.
okay. All right, so the next one is agree to disagree. And this is just, recognizing that there's different management and philosophies on communication and opinion, and talking about that split vote that we already talked about, and just respecting the opinion of the majority. So that is what that is about. I'll give you a second because it's kind of a long one. So just read it real quickly and we can talk about it.
Of course, we'll go through again and remove.
Yes, the
the-
Tinder.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Here we go, right here. Yeah, it's just kind of a long-winded way to say that, we're going to support the majority vote of the governance team.
But again, the language is great, the way it's written up. I mean, if you're a board member, that's coming in with a different perspective. And I mean, I think you're going to read this and you're going to feel comfortable that, the culture here is that I can disagree. I can take a separate vote or different vote from my colleagues. And this gives me some kind of direction of how to handle it, but not feel like my voice is being limited in any way.
Yeah, and Daryl, as president, a lot of that falls to you. I know, on my board, I've been president for 10 years. No one else wants to do it except for next year. I have someone that wants to be president, so I can finally hand it off. But really, we're the facilitators for that conversation on the board, and if I see one of my board members is kind of quiet or, where usually they're really engaged, I'll, after the board meeting, I'll say, hey, come on, let's go grab a coffee and talk about how you're feeling, because I can feel that, you're not as engaged as you used to be. So again, a lot of that falls to the president, Daryl, right? Is keeping your finger on the temperature of the board and making sure relationships are good. And like I said, and like you guys said, you're not always going to agree, but you respect each other. And I can feel that on this board. Okay, so
That's another, I don't think I saw that in the governance handbook. I mean, maybe it's something that we add in the future. We don't need to do it now, but doing writing out what you just mentioned and relating the rules of the president, the rules
Okay.
of the clerk and the, vice
Okay.
president and things like that as it relates to how we kind of structured this culture in our district. Putting that in the governing document would, I think, be helpful.
Okay.
I mean, I know we have that in our board policies, but we would,
Mhm.
touch on this as it relates to like the culture and that sort of thing, as this is document already doing.
Okay.
Terry,
Perfect.
if I can add, whoops,
Go ahead, Dr. Locke. Yes.
Her dogs, I think, started barking.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll give it a second. So I know Dr. Locke has something she wanted to add.
Yeah, and I don't know where it adds, but it comes up is when you said, Terry, reminded me when you said you've been president for 10 years. I know by going through the board governance training is there are some districts that it's a progression, you start out as member and then you're a clerk and you automatically move to vice president, and so on. We don't have that in place. And I know when it comes to the election time, is it okay to be the president 2 years in a row? My understanding in the culture and the expectation, even though it's not been discussed or written anywhere, that in Moreno Valley, it's always changed. You know what I mean? It's not proper, to be the president 2 years in a row.
Right.
And I think when it comes time, it causes some I'm not saying discomfort a little bit because we handle ourselves so professionally of when it comes time to nominate president, vice president, clerk, and even the committees that we have, everyone's sort of not sure what to do. We don't want someone's feelings to hurt or get hurt. And so I really think we need, and even though I know everyone knows, and this is the true thing out there, I won't be on the board, but I care about the board.
Yes, you do.
I'm stop crying, but I care about what happens, and I
know.
And I don't like when something occurs that it disconnects us, and it legitimately did in the past because we didn't have, it was an expectation for one thing, but something else happened. So I truly believe in this board to move forward and not have this situation when election time comes. We need to discuss it. Now's the time to discuss does this board want to do this?
Right. And I think you brought up a great, issue that we need to talk about. What do you guys feel like? Do you want something Dr. K, do you have a board bylaw regarding officers? Does it say that it's a circular issue or how is that? Dr. K, can you hear me?
Yeah,
There
I
you go.
can. And we have board bylaws and it says about each position, but it
Mhm.
doesn't say that they get to do it once or anything like that.
Oh.
Isn't that right, Claudia?
Correct.
Yeah.
So there
Okay.
are board bylaws about a specific, like what the board president role is, vice president role is.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in there about the language that it has to rotate or they can only be president for 1 year. There is no language about that in there.
So would you guys like to create that language now?
I am not in favor of that at all.
Okay.
If we're going to vote on it, I'm voting no.
Can we clarify exactly what you're not in favor of?
I'm not in favor of just rotating because we have new board members come in. Maybe the vice president was not reelected and then the new board member comes in replacing that person. So then do we have a new board member be president? I just don't think it works well. I don't want to do it.
If I can add something, and I understand what you're saying, Mrs. Smith, and that's why it's just at least to get it out there as to sort of our beliefs of what happens. The other thing is when we, nominate, do we nominate, is it okay to nominate 2 people and then ask for second? I mean, I just think that I just know myself as, as a member, and then I know myself as the president, is just wanting, even if we don't rotate, but just the idea of this is a process that we're going to follow. So there isn't,
Yes.
bad feelings, while people work it out, because it's not against anybody. It could be because at this time, a little difference of philosophy, a little, that. So, I mean, I think we're in a good place. But I just think even I think maybe the main thing, Mrs. Brown, I mean, I understand Ms. Smith's not comfortable with that, but maybe the idea of it, whether someone should rotate, or not rotate, but change office, you know what I mean? Or do we just want to leave it as is? If someone is it 2 years in a row, so be it. I just think it's just something at least to discuss, maybe not put in writing, but just
I agree. I think the discussion is extremely important, But my feeling is this, is that I think the underlying issue, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think the underlying issue is really about how do we, as a board of education or a governing board, get through disagreements and friction. And it's not just about the board vote to elect its leadership, but rather just votes in general where we disagree. And this handbook that we're creating, I think really speaks to the culture. And we spent a lot of time on this to really be very specific about what the culture is without telling people what to do, but rather to feel like they do have a voice in the process, and feel comfortable and where they feel like they're valued in this space. And I think this document does that. And I also noticed in the document, when I was reading through it, we have all of the what the orientation looks like for the new board members. We have a process now. I think this culture is going to carry through. I think it's going to be strong. So in my view, I do agree with Ms. Smith on this issue, that we should allow difference of opinions. But the most important piece of this is that when we disagree on our leadership, that's okay. And it's not personal. We look at this document, we recognize it's not about personalities. It's just we may have a disagreement, but we need to operate as we continuously do in this governing body and set the example like we can continue to talk about, not only for our community, but for other governing bodies, regardless of what institution they're in. And we all know there needs to be examples. And I think we are a really good example of how we operate when we disagree. And even when it comes to changing leadership, that we can have a disagreement. Maybe it's clear in the public meeting that there's a disagreement, but it's respectful. We do it with grace and we move forward and we're united more than ever. And if we can do that, that's where our strength comes from. And that's the example we should be striving for. So that's my view. I think we allow the process to take place, and we're open to it.
And I think you got to it, Daryl, like people need to feel respected, right? And it all comes down to respect and making sure that, it's not personal. Like there's no one being targeted personally. And so, yeah, and on my board, we do it the same way. We don't have a rotation. And it does feel a little awkward when, like me as president, when I open nominations and it's quiet, you know what I mean? So you're just like, oh, what's, everyone thinking? And because of the Brown Act, we can't get together before and say, hey, you're going to be president and this, so it really has a life of its own and it has to be done in an open meeting. So, maybe this is something we can discuss in the future, President Biden, if you'd like to do that when we go over the governance handbook again, but we can definitely leave it as it is as open nominations now. You want to go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I want to clarify that I don't support the rotation for the exact reason Mrs. Smith said. I don't support. It was just the idea, just that what we're discussing now. I think it's powerful. It doesn't even have to have anything in writing, but sometimes things, it's like when we look at our politics, it changes, and for whatever reason. But then, but I think we've grown so much as a board that, we would get past it. I just think, that collaboration and that team spirit that isn't, here now, that is here now, I think, but I just wanted to at least bring that up. So.
Thank you, Dr. Locke. I think it's really important that we talk these things out, and the thing of it is, at a regular board meeting, we can't have these conversations. So when we have these workshops, this is the time that we can discuss things like this, so, okay.
I think Mr. Johnson had a,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I stepped out. I had to go to the front door.
Okay, to grab your lunch.
Find some, they delivered it, and I had to find some tip money too. So I'm sorry.
No problem.
We were talking about the secession or something that we were talking about?
We were talking about how you elect your officers.
Yes.
Like some districts have that rotation. Some districts like mine and yours have the open nomination every year.
Yeah.
We really don't I mean, it's up to the board how the officers are elected.
Yeah, we've done it both ways, and I think perhaps the open might be the best way. Because I think if you just went by succession, you know, who's supposed to be next and so forth, and it doesn't happen, then it could cause some kind of confusion, should I say. So
Okay.
I think the open way, and I don't know what everybody else said, so, but that's just what I'm
Mhm.
thinking. Should be about it. I don't know. I don't think we want to go around asking somebody, hey, look, do you want to do this or you want to do that?
Mhm.
I think we just go by who we think can handle the responsibility. It doesn't matter if it's just the clerk or whatever. I
Okay.
think it goes by that. I think you know, the main thing I guess what I'm saying is your performance. We don't have this, but let's say you had a person who didn't engage themselves in no activities at all, but they're the vice president. So next year they expect to be the president, but you don't do anything except come to a board meeting. Why
Right.
would you expect that? Well, who knows why they would expect that, but maybe they do.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's
Yeah.
just, that's my take on it. And I don't know if I'm saying what everybody else said or not, since I didn't hear, but
Good.
that's just part of my take.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement, CJ. I think everyone was in favor of the open nominations and not making kind of a rotation. President Peden, is that what you understood?
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think, I know I don't want to speak for Dr. Locke, but what I'm hearing is that, you know, it would make sense to add that somewhere in the handbook, just to give the new board members an understanding of what this looks like. It is covered in the board policies, but
Okay.
I think, or Dr. Kidzior said, not exactly just the positions, but it does address how we do officers, right? In general.
Yeah. Yeah. Let
Um,
me.
But just the
Oh.
culture of it and just, you know, the language,
Yeah.
and it speaks to the culture that, you know, this is a process that will take place. This is why we have this process. This is why it's important. And this is your role in the process.
Mhm. Okay, you know what, I'll create a little paragraph, a few sentences on that, and I'll include it. And, you know, again, when you get this back after Claudia and I go over this, you can edit anything you want, you know, before you adopt. So I'll put in a little piece on that, and we'll make sure that it's okay with you guys, but I'll talk about the open nomination process.
And we should have some expectations, I would say, for the president, or the vice president, or the clerk, and those should be written out. That'll determine. Maybe some folks will be like, I can't meet that obligation. You know, I don't even want to be nominated.
Yeah.
You know, because maybe it's not just running the meeting. Maybe it's more than that. If you ask me as the current president, I couldn't tell you what the expectations are as a president outside of the formalities of running a good meeting, right?
Mhm.
But if there's other things that are expected of me, I'd like to know that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because maybe I'm not sure I know what is really expected of me as the president, except for, you know, make sure we get as close to that 8 o'clock mark and adjourning those meetings. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So Claudia and I will work. I know there's something in your board bylaws. We'll integrate that into here, and we'll put that piece in, because like you said, and like I've said a couple of times today, this is an onboarding tool for future board members, and I think that's important that they understand that. Okay.
Daryl, just 1 second. Daryl, I'm trying to wrap my thoughts around what you just said. It's not that I don't agree. I agree, but I'm in a different position than all of you, I would imagine. Oh, except maybe Dr. Locke. Oh, and Susan, because she's retired as well. Shoot, I forgot that. Well, anyway, I'm retired, so I don't mind participating in everything that we do, or should I say 80%, 90% of the things that we do. Doesn't matter if I like it or not. I try to go to as many as possible. And I also, I don't mind telling y'all this, I'll just come on and say it publicly. I personally don't like somebody else to be doing something that I'm not doing. And what that simply means is sometimes I get a phone call, hey, CJ, I'm going to so-and-so. I said, I'll be there with you. Except I didn't go. Except I didn't go tonight. But my only point in saying that is sometimes we don't do things on our own simply because we don't feel like going. But when a colleague is going to most everything, especially me, I'm not talking about everybody else. If Susan or anybody call me and say I'm going, then I'll tell you what, I'll bet you I'm going to be there too. That's just how I am. So I'm not saying we need to write that. That's just what I do. But I can also say I can do that because I am RET. So I can do whatever I want to do. But I really don't, like last night, Jesus called me and I really couldn't go. I felt bad about that, but I could not make that.
Mm-hmm.
So this morning, I apologize. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's important, CJ. I think you brought up a good point that you guys work together as a team. You know, everyone can't make everything, but as long as, there's certain, there's board members in attendance to functions, I think that's important, and all of us have different abilities to attend, but I think it's important that the board is visible. And I think you guys are definitely a visible board. So I appreciate that. I think that's important, CJ.
Yeah, our basketball team at Moreno Valley High School, I mean, they won the championship and they had something going on, and shoots, there's no way in the world I'm going to miss a free meal. I mean, I miss congratulating the team.
That's funny. And I love basketball, so I would have been right there with you. But anyways.
I guess all I'm saying is that I wouldn't say that we need to tell or whoever there's specific things that you have to do as president or as vice president.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some general idea. I mean, we know there's a specific things you have to do as it relates to your role as president running a meeting. There's things that you have to do. We know that. Well, we should identify that as it relates to like attending events and things like that. Maybe there's more traditions that we have in this district or cultures that we're adopting within this district where, for instance, as the president, you will be asked and required to speak at the graduation. Like that, if that's a requirement, that probably needs to be written down. So the person that's going to get voted on is aware that they're going to be speaking in front of thousands of people. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. So just kind of identifying what are those expectations. Let's try to get them down. And that's great. I don't think the expectation should be attend every meeting or not every meeting, but every event or something of that nature. But I think there should be kind of an idea so somebody knows what they're expected. That way they can represent the board and the district in the way that, is it being expected out of them.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll,
and
Claudia and I will.
The activities that I attended, I did them because I really wanted to, and because I had the time as well. I mean, I remember when Moreno Valley baseball team was in flying high. We went to Riverside to watch them play on UCR. So it's to me, it's up to the individual. And I was just on the board. I wasn't the president, but I just wanted to follow our team, and I thought just being there and they saw us that it would help promote them and also give them some courage to know that. We thought enough of them to put. But that's just me. I'm not saying that's something that we need to write down and
no.
Everybody accountable to that. I'm just talking about myself.
Exactly.
But if I can't just jump in, I don't want to just one more thing. I do want to acknowledge though. I mean, we have acknowledged in this document how important it is for us to be present, right, as a Board of Education. So
visible.
We've acknowledged that, then in some ways that's our obligation, but that being as a team, like making sure that if you're not going to go somewhere that you've asked the question, do we have board representation? Like there's nothing that I'm asked to go to that I don't attend, that I have not asked the question. I can't make it, but do we have board representation? If we don't have board representation, then I will be there. I will cancel whatever I have going on, or I'll make sure I make that. So, anyway.
But
Perfect.
you know, a lot of the activities, they don't ask us. I don't know, Jesus is the one, he carries something in his back pocket. I don't know what the heck, but he's the one that tells me, and I say, sure, yesterday he wanted to go, and I couldn't make it yesterday, but no, I don't know where he gets his schedule from and whatever, but that's why. So I'm not going to take that and say, okay, that's something I do know. Somebody brings it to my attention and I say, yes, I'm coming.
Exactly. So yeah, hey, and that's the fun part of being a board member. There's a lot of hard things we have to do, but celebrating and being present in those athletic events and different award events are wonderful. I love them. So we will put in a description, Daryl, of the officers. We'll get that from the bylaws, and then we'll integrate that into this book.
Can I say my
Everybody's good with that?
Can I say my piece for a minute?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So first, I like to say to Dr. Locke, I appreciate you stating that you care for the board and you care what happens to the board and you care for the district. I truly appreciate that because I know you do. And as far as the election of the officers, I'm just saying what I have seen over the years. I'm not saying this is the way it should be done or anything. I'm just saying this is what I have seen over the years, and in general, it hasn't been anything written that dictates, how it has to be done or whatever. So it's been most of the years has been open. We get to the board meeting and then the nominations come up and down, and there's been a couple of times when I have seen a little disagreement here and there, and it's uncomfortable at the beginning, but again, when we go back to the norms and we go back to the professionalism of the people working on the board, it comes back to normal, and then we continue working. And I've always seen the respect of the entire board towards the president or the vice president or the clerk, whatever. There has always been respect. There has never been anything that has caused disrespect after the election is taking place. Again, discomfort maybe a week or two, a month, and then goes back to normal. But I think, like Mr. Peden said, with these norms, with this document here, I think the important thing is to recognize that we need to continue moving forward, and we cannot allow, something, some discomfort here and there to stop the work of the board as a board. We need to keep moving forward. And I'll be honest, a couple of times I've been disappointed that I was not, nominated for certain position. But, I know my colleague, whoever is elected, is going to do a great job. And my role from that point forward is to support my colleague, whoever it is, because it's been nominated and it has been elected. So that's what I set my mind immediately and move on. And then, I guess what I'm saying is that I support the open process too. I think it's been working great over the years, and I think it's also a good opportunity to give every board member to hold the different positions and have the experiences. And as far as the roles of the president, vice president, and clerk, I think isn't there something in CSBA that kind of gives you a guide of these are the kind of the roles, expectations, or responsibilities, whatever the word is. Yeah. And I think that's a good document too. But I also appreciate that Mr. Peden requesting that, because yes, it is important, especially again for those that are joining the board, to understand these are your expectations when you hold this position. As the clerk, you're expected to sit there and sign tons of documents,
Signing your life away, right?
The first time I was elected clerk was my first year on the board, and I was elected clerk. I was happy, and then until they came and gave me this stack of papers. And, okay, all right. So I had to stay there for half an hour extra. Yes. So yeah, it is important to understand what their responsibilities and roles and stuff. And then as far as attending the events and things, I'm always willing to attend, and I'm always willing to support the teams and the entire family, because I like it because I like doing it, because I have the opportunity, I have the flexibility, and so I do it. And as much as I can, I always say, I'm here representing the board. It's not just Jesus, it's the board representation here. So I'm here for all those that cannot be here this evening or this morning, or whatever the case is. So I always make it a point to say, I'm here representing the board. So because I understand that we're not in the same position, we're not always available to attend everything. I miss a lot of stuff myself too. But I know that somebody else will be there, and that's great. But as much as I can, I do it because, again, I believe in supporting the students, supporting the staff, and representing the board. So I have to say, I've never seen it as a requirement for me to be there, but I've seen it as a, maybe in my mind is an expectation as a board member, and it is a desire to see from staff, to see the support from the board. So that's what I do. And as much as I can, I'll always be honored to represent the board. And that's the way I see it. It's an honor representing the board. It's not just a like, it's an honor.
Right.
So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you. Hey guys, so let's take, it's 11:45. Let's take like half an hour till 12:15. We only have a few protocols to go over afterwards. So if that's okay, President Peden will take a half an hour break so everyone can eat their lunch. And then we'll come back and finish up with the few protocols that we have left. Does that sound good?
Sounds great to me. Everybody bored? You guys good?
Okay,
Yep.
so we'll come back at 12:15. Have a wonderful lunch, and thank you for sending me a lunch. I love that.
Let me know when. All right, we are back from lunch. It is now 12:18 p.m. Eric?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank you for my delicious lunch. It was a wonderful salad. Everything was perfect. So thank you for sending that to me. I appreciate it. Okay, so we talked kind of about officers. Claudia and I are going to get together and get that content integrated into the handbook. Next thing we have to talk about is our agenda development. And this is pretty straightforward, that the president and the superintendent will work together to develop the agenda. Agenda should reflect the district's goals, vision and goals, and the Board of Education's focus on student learning. And then it talks about, who's able to put things on the agenda. So any questions or concerns on that? Pretty upfront.
I would just say, can we reference the board policy that that talks about specific to agenda setting? That way any new board member can reference that and make sure there's no confusion. And then I guess my other regarding that reference, I'm not sure the board policy states that anybody has the right to actually place an item on the agenda, but rather request it to be on the agenda. And then there's the agenda setting is actually done by the superintendent and the president of the board. So I would want to make sure that that's clear, that just because, unless we change our board policies, but that right now, if a board member says they want something on the agenda, that doesn't mean that it's going to be on the agenda.
It might take one. Claudia, you got this out of, you changed the language a little bit. You looked up the board policy.
I added, yes, that's the board bylaw, but yes,
Board bylaw.
I added the part about the board, the president, that first paragraph, but you are correct, Mr. Peden. It is to request.
Yeah, so we just say, just change the right to place, but to request would be, and then everything would align there, then we'll be good.
Correct. And I think that goes back to how we have that future agenda topics.
Right. Yep.
Item to make requests.
Employee or citizen has a right to request.
And I'll reread the board bylaw just to make sure. And
Okay.
for sure, Terry and I, we did talk yesterday regarding, I remember I said we are gonna be putting
Yes.
links in there. Board members, we will be putting links in there of all the board bylaws and stuff like that. And we're gonna put, just like the communication, the Friday communication, there'll be bookmarks and stuff like that. Once we get it all finalized.
Perfect.
All right, so our next one is process over personalities. And this is just saying that, as board members, we value our employees and their contributions and their ability to give us data to evaluate the programs, courses, and personnel. And we respect their experience and their job that they do in this area. So that's pretty straightforward. The criteria must include fiscal accountability as well as program integrity. And what that alludes to is, as board members, we're not doing the evaluation of programs and processes ourselves. We're relying on our employees of the district to give that information to us. Okay, so now down to anonymous information. Every effort will be made by the governance team and employees to use the agreed upon complaint procedures. Anonymous information can cast aspersions on character and integrity. We treat all formal complaints seriously, but it is challenging to move forward with an investigation with anonymous information. We request that every person with a complaint follow the acceptable Moreno Valley Unified School District complaint. Not that we're going to ignore anonymous information, but we encourage people, that are having difficulties like that to use the complaint procedures. Okay. And again, as board members, this is what we do. We tell people about the chain of command. I remember when I was first on the board, I was getting requests like, hey, can you fire this teacher? Can you fire this principal? No, I can't. Thank you very much. And so, the board only has one employee, that is the superintendent. And, we'll hold to our role and responsibility. If a parent has a complaint, we make sure that they know about the chain of command, go to the teacher, the principal, and the complaint procedures. I'm sure that's on your website, the formal complaint procedure. So they have access to that and we can tell them about it.
Yeah, I like the way in our district that Dr. Kedziora is responsive to complaints. Usually if we get a complaint, it comes to everybody. If I get something, I will forward it via email, I'll forward it to him. And he's been really good about just taking that by the reins and handling those complaints. So
perfect.
I don't think that's a uniform complaint procedure, but
yes.
I'm glad that he handles that for us.
Yeah, and you should have, I'm sure you, Dr. K, you have a form on your website for the formal complaint procedure.
Yes, and people know we inform them that they can pick it up at a school site if they'd like to, or at the district office. We make it available to them, and we even help them fill it out if they need help. And we just had a federal program monitoring where they reviewed our complaint procedures, and we were in compliance, and they looked at all of our documents and everything. And so that was very successful. And they complimented the process and the record keeping and how we respond and what we do. So yeah, that's been a huge thing that since I came here, the board asked that when Dr. Whitenappers came here, they were concerned about complaints being responded to in the public, how they were, how the responsiveness. I'm very mindful of that existed. And so we try to be as quick as possible, providing them with either information or saying to them when we're going to get back to them.
Okay, perfect. And so this is a little redundant. Again, it talks about that complaint procedure and that, as board members, we're the ears and eyes for the superintendent out in the community. And just if we hear of stuff that we'll give him, we'll share the problem that we heard of. and just make sure that he's in the loop and he knows what's going on in the community. Dr. K's everywhere. He probably hears of everything anyways, but sometimes parents are more comfortable talking to board members separately. So that's what that is about. And then the heads up protocol, this is just, again, if a government team member it becomes aware of a problem at a school site or location, they will, inform the superintendent. We are a team and we choose to support our team by sharing information and working cooperatively to address issues. The confidentiality, again, so important. So many things that can come out of closed session can really hurt the district. We're talking about negotiations, we're talking about personnel, we're talking about litigation. Again, that you guys are pretty much seasoned board members, you understand that, but this is an onboarding tool for future board members, and they need to understand, when things are confidential, they need to be kept confidential. The next protocol is site programs and visitations. Take a minute and read that and just see if that corresponds with what you do in your district. I think it does. It's just a matter of like, hey, let the principal know or let the superintendent know that you're coming to visit a site.
I would just say, reading this, I appreciate the language that was used. I know there was some work put into this specific area as well, just to make sure the new board members don't feel like they can't, visit school sites, but rather whether the protocols to do so, they're encouraged to do so, but here are some things that need to take place in order to make sure we're doing it in a responsible way.
Exactly. Any comments or questions? Dr. K, do you have anything to add to the visitation piece?
No, I like it when the board visits with me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's very important and I appreciate their participation. I like to go when they go and just to be there for support. And I appreciate when they let me know, and, there's not any issues. So I just appreciate, their support, and so do others. So thank you.
Okay. And it's different, Daryl. I think you have kids in the district. Don't you have students attending the schools? During my tenure, I had 4 kids and I was on the school board the whole time they were going through school. So it makes it a little bit, even if you go to a classroom and say, you know what, I'm here as a parent, it's hard to take off that board member hat, but I never gave up my right to work in the classroom or be involved with my kids, at the school sites. But I was really mindful not to talk about school issues and just be there as a volunteer and help them do their art project or whatever, I was involved with the school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the, some advice I got was that, I'm a parent first and a board member second.
Exactly. Okay, and so the next one is personal problem solving. And what this is regarding is the relationships on the governance team, the relationships between board members. This is just saying, guess what, guys? We're responsible for our own relationships on the board. We're not going to involve the superintendent because that's not his job to fix our relationships on the board, that we're all going to work together to make sure our relationships are good on the board as trustees. And we're not going to involve the superintendent in that because it just gets messy, right? We need to fix our own relationships and make sure that the governance team is strong. Okay, the next one is, we don't ask for special favors for our children, friends, or family. We expect equal and respectful treatment of all people. We will model this behavior at all times. And it seems kind of funny that it's in here because, gosh, no one's going to ask for preferential treatment or special favors. I've seen that in my own district. So it certainly does happen, and just for us to be mindful, you know, that we're not asking for special things for our family or our kids. The next one is really good. I think it's important that we have a protocol on how we orientate new board members. You know, what does that look like? So we have review the governance handbook, protocols and agreements, review of board agenda process and procedures, review of 9,000 series of board policies, review of the Brown Act and discussion of confidentiality, review CSBA governance standards, review of AXO CSBA professional standards and job description for the superintendent, review contract provisions and evaluation procedures, discuss of pending litigation and critical issues, and review of major programs and projects. The one thing I have added in certain districts is a meeting with the CBO to get a little overview of budget, you know, because, you know, Jesus, you know it all, like you know that. But as new board members coming on, wow, the fiscal piece and the budget piece is kind of hard for us to understand. So if you want, I can add that in there, meet with the CBO. Okay.
I think that would be a great addition to it.
Okay.
We already do that in our district, because I know when I was first elected, I met with the CBO. I met with
Yeah.
everybody. So I think our district is already doing that.
What we
Yeah,
do,
it is well.
what we do, Cherry, is they meet with each cabinet member and they
Okay.
go over their areas.
Okay.
That did not happen with Gerald, and I apologize, but it did happen with the rest of you, I think. You know?
Yes, it did. Mhm.
I mean, Dr. Locke, you worked here, so you knew, you know, I guess.
I think
All
it
right.
would be great to list it under that list. there.
Okay. Okay. All right, and again,
Quick, sorry.
oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Just for clarification, the governance team will be scheduled there's orientation scheduled. Let me start it over, sorry.
Mhm.
As soon as possible, the governance team will schedule an orientation session with newly constituted board. So every time there's a new board, this process is going to take place with every board member, or is it just going to be the new onboarding?
Yeah, just the new board member.
Okay, so maybe should we put member
Okay.
after board then?
Okay, with the newly constituted board member. Or let's put elected. Does that sound better?
Yeah, I was confused.
Uh,
But what if they're not elected and they're appointed?
oh, right. I'll put elected or appointed.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Okay, and again, this is just talking about, oh, this needs to be changed. Complaint procedures. I know it's in there a lot, but this is just a really sticky issue with board members. And so, let me see. And this is just explaining the fact that if we get involved in a complaint procedure at the lowest level, we might have to abstain at the highest level, right? Because when it goes through all the, different aspects of going through the procedure, we need to be at the top to be able to, really judge. We're the Court of Appeals. So it's explaining that we need to kind of stay out of things as much as we can. And so we can make the judgment at the top. The next one is just, we want to do a workshop every year. It doesn't have to be with me or facilitated by me, but just making sure that we're doing like a board self-evaluation, we're doing a workshop on budget, we're doing a workshop maybe on goal setting, and reviewing the governance handbook. Usually we review the governance handbook at the organizational meeting in December. So that's what this is talking about.
And whose role is it to make sure that workshop is, is actually scheduled and carried out? Would that be the superintendent or would that be the president?
I think the board president and the superintendent would work together on that, and a governance calendar is really handy to have, right? So you can kind of line out what's going on through the year, but you can also line out professional development and workshops and different things that the board wants to do during the year. Okay, next we come to superintendent evaluation. We recognize the value and importance of a comprehensive and formal evaluation process for the superintendent. We agree to abide by all contract terms and will conduct a formal evaluation of the superintendent each year. Next one is individual board member requests for information. And this is just saying that, nice to know, need to know, that we recognize that when we ask for a lot of information that it's employee time and it costs money. So if it's a huge request, that it probably should come as an informational item in front of the board, and the board can make a decision on whether they want that to go forward. Next is the individual board member requests for action. And, one of the hard things for a superintendent is they have 5 or 7 bosses. And if each of them is telling them a different thing that they want done, that can get really, really difficult for that superintendent, because they want to please their bosses. They want to make sure the relationship is good. But again, it's kind of our responsibility as the governing board to make sure that we're speaking with a collective voice and we're not giving individual directives to our superintendent. Board meeting management. It's funny, we talk about the Zoom, and literally we've never had 5 or 6 people at our board meeting. And now all of a sudden with Zoom, we're having like hundreds of people join our meeting, which, as board president, I'm like, okay, all right, board meeting management, that's my responsibility. But just making sure that, board meetings are meeting of the board held in public. They're not an open forum or town hall meeting, but not to say that you can't have those different kinds of meetings, right? We'll make sure that we're not engaging in the 3-minute comment time. We're not responding to the public. And we're making sure that everyone's being treated equally and fairly and given time to speak when they need to.
And saying chair, you're referring to the president or whoever is running the meeting, because if the president is absent.
Oh yeah. And you know what? It can get sideways fast. Like we had a couple meetings ago, we had a item on our agenda that was to approve shooting sports. So, we're up in the mountains, we're rural, and they wanted a trap shooting team. Well, all of a sudden it got into a discussion of gun rights, right? And I'm like, hey guys, we don't have jurisdiction over that. So it's really the president's responsibility and really management of the meeting to make sure that people are staying on the agenda item and not, going out into other items that we don't have jurisdiction over. That was an interesting meeting. Guys, we can't make that decision. So managing difficult topics. We never have difficult topics all the time. Recognizing that the board has been elected to conduct challenging conversations in public, members agreed to discuss the issues in an atmosphere of mutual respect. Debate should only occur between board members. The board will not respond to questions or statements made by members of the audience. Only the chair will respond to public comment during the meeting and only if warranted. I think I talked to Dr. K, don't you, if someone has like a concern, a staff member contacts them after the board meeting? And
If we were in person, Terry, and you know,
Yes.
I always ask the board president, like it depends on what's happening, but if there's something that I could say that would help, then I would do it, you know, in public. But if it's not, but I will ask a staff member to step down and help that person immediately, or get their, you know, make sure they're making
Perfect.
personal contact. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, are you guys back in person now, or are you still doing virtual meetings?
We're still doing virtual and I love it.
I know, well, I think that more people participate.
I don't know that, but there's people that participated that don't like it because they're not in person, because they don't get to be seen and all that. And they tell me, we're not coming because we're not on TV and nobody can see us.
Well,
And, you know, they were regulars, but they're gonna be back, you know.
okay, all right.
I have so my view on the last sentence of managing difficult topics is that we should just take that sentence out.
Okay,
It doesn't really align with my the way kind of like I approach things. Of course, it's up to the board, but I don't know if we should be seeking the best rather than the right solution. I think that's just a problematic statement in general.
yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, unless people object to that. I mean, again, it's just my view, but I think it's just a statement that really.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't bother me either way.
okay.
Could I just ask a question? You asked us if we were still virtual or in person. Have most boards gone back to in person, or are most boards, do you think, still virtual?
We're still virtual. I think most boards are, you know, ending out the year virtual and maybe looking to, you know, in the fall, starting back in person. But I think most still are virtual.
Well, Terry, they just, they extended the, you know, the flexibility in the Brown Act until
Yes.
September 30th. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. I deleted this.
Hey, I like being home when the board meeting is over.
No driving, right?
Drive home.
Okay, and then the last one, I think that's the last one. Yeah, we're down to the last one. This is just, you know, if an emergency happens or something crazy in the district happens, this is just talking about that the superintendent will let the board know about it, right? The superintendent will use email to communicate routine matters to the board on a regular basis, which is like your Friday update. But during crisis situations, the superintendent will send out an email alert, then attempt to reach board members via telephone text, beginning with the board president. Does that coincide with how you do things, Dr. K?
Yeah, but I would think what I do is I send out a text alert, and then I send out it would be telephone or text. I mean, telephone or email, because I text with them individually on things, and I let them know. So if they have to say something back to me, you know, but I use text.
Okay.
For each of
Yeah.
them.
Well, I think we look at our phones more than our emails.
Yeah. And I try to call with really, you know, important news.
Okay.
And get each of them as.
Okay. Okay, guys. We're down to the signature page, and go ahead, Jesus, sorry.
Just one question.
Yes.
The heading, you changed it from board notification to information.
I know, I'm getting back. Let me do that.
I was just wondering if there was a reason for that.
No, nope.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we made it through the governance handbook. And last of all is the signature page. Like I said, Claudia and I will get together. We'll make an appointment and we'll go through this together and capture all the content, of the few changes. We didn't make so many changes, but the few changes that we want to make. And I'd like to ask the board members now, what are their thoughts? Is there anything you'd like to add? How did you feel about the workshop? Just what are you feeling now?
I feel very comfortable with what we've already done today. It gives all of us an opportunity to see the same thing at the same time with the same type of understanding of it, rather than, I go in and I just read it and I leave maybe with one interpretation, and then one of my colleagues has a different interpretation. So to me, that's one of the biggest benefits. It also reminds us of some of the things that we learned or we were trained in the very beginning. So it's bringing it back to life in me, and just reminding me that don't forget this piece of it, because it's something that we don't normally do, but it's something that we may have to do one day. So it's a good idea to refresh and then go back over this.
Exactly. Thank you. Jesus or Daryl or Susan or Dr. Locke, any closing remarks or thoughts or reflections?
I think it was great. I think you've really accomplished a lot. And it's really going to be very beneficial for current and any future board members.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Locke, I just want to, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Dr. Locke, I just want to thank you for your time on the board and your dedication to the kids in Moreno Valley. I mean, you've done an amazing job, and I appreciate your work, and as does everyone else. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry.
No problem. Susan, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you. I think this is great to have this document completed, and I'm glad that we have this opportunity to go over it together. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to echo those words. I think it is important, it is critical that the team be together, and activities like this, where we are putting in place a process that is going to allow us to continue working together and for the benefit of the organization. And I just want to thank my colleagues for willingness to go through this process and all the input and all the statements and changes, and especially Dr. Katsura for setting it together, or setting the meeting for us to be here and discuss this and express our opinions without fear. And to you, Terry, thank you so much for bringing your experience and knowledge, and you willing to listen and make the changes that were stated here. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and so Terry, thank you for facilitating these workshops.
Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership. You've been
Thank you.
very valuable to MVUSD for sure. And I also would like to thank Dr. Locke as president and as a board member. She recognized really early on that this was needed. And so thank you, Dr. Locke, for your leadership. At the end of the day, this document is going to go down. It's going to be a document that's going to stay here for a very long time. And it's because of your leadership that we have a process and a document like this, and going to have a huge impact in this district. Thank you for your vision, and thank you for your leadership on this.
Thank you.
You made me cry, Daryl, but thank you.
You're welcome.
You're awesome. Dr. K, you want to close us out?
Dr. Locke, you just might as well face it. You're going to cry, and that's just what's going to happen. And it's sad, but I just echo what Daryl just said, because as a superintendent and as a governance team, we have grown through the leadership that this was, something that it was your brainchild, and it's made us better people, just better in what we do, but better people in being committed to each other and a common purpose, and knowing that we're unified in our efforts, and just better our ability to listen to each other and have good manners, and just really support each other through a process. And one of the things you often said to me was, what's the process? You know, what process are we using? And I appreciated that, because sometimes I just do it in my head. And I remember Daryl Payton said, I spent a couple of hours with Daryl Payton on a Saturday, and he said, I'm so glad you told me how you think and what you do, because, you know, sometimes I just deliver the message and I think people know what I'm saying. And they're thinking, how'd you get there? You know? So I really appreciate that we've had these opportunities. And I think that, you know, we realize the importance of them. And yes, it takes some additional time, but the time is well spent because it strengthens what we do and gives us a greater resolve to serve and support our community and most of all our students in a unified way. So I'm just thankful for the time commitment and the process. And, you know, it was really good for me as a superintendent to read over the governance handbook as I did today, line by line. You know, I was reading them on the screen, and you know, just to reinforce and remember things that we don't always, you know, we're not always as present in them. Yeah. And I just feel better having had this than I would have if I didn't. It just gives you a chance to be more grounded and feel more connected to the greater purpose. So I just want to thank, you know, like I echo what I thank each of you, but you know, we couldn't leave here today without thanking Dr. Law, and exactly. You know, thank you for, you know, insisting this happen.
And if I could just jump in, I mean, I do think it would be, I know Mitchell Gain mentioned, you know, putting me as, you know, making sure my title is represented in this document, but I think we definitely need to make sure this document acknowledges Dr. Locke's work on this. I don't know how to do that or what would be appropriate, but that needs to be there, and that needs to remain there through history, because this is our governing handbook, and this is the first one that I know of. Of course, I could be wrong, but if that's the case, then that needs to be acknowledged, because it's a big deal. It really is.
Perfect. We'll add a piece in there about that. Thank you. All right, guys. So next steps, I will make an appointment with Claudia. We'll go over this, and then we'll get it back to you, and you can, at a regular board meeting, approve it. So again, I want to thank you for having me in your district. I respect your work and respect Moreno Valley USD so much. And I just appreciate what you do day in and day out for the students of your district. So thank you. And
you know, can I just say one more word? Can I just say one more word? You know, I apologize for this. I mean,
no
I don't
problem.
Like this, but you know, several years back when Dr. Getsura joined the district, and one of my questions at the time was, why is it that, or from the time I got elected, why is it that we don't have a strategic plan? And I asked that question over and over and over, and many times the answer I got was, we don't have time to do a strategic plan. It takes time. It's tedious. We don't have time until, you know, it happened and the strategic plan was put in place. And I think having that strategic plan made a huge difference in the work of the district from that point forward. So I mentioned that because I want to say to Dr. Locke, the fact that you insisted that this process took place, that this activity took place, and making the commitment, like Dr. Getsura mentioned, making the commitment to sit here for these 2 sessions, for the whatever number of hours it took, those hours are going to mean a lot for the future of the board and for the entire district as a whole, for the entire community. So I just want you to know that I truly appreciate that, you know, that step that you took to make it a point that we have to do this, because it is important. It is important to have these processes in place, and the time invested at the beginning, like today in the previous session, that time invested is going to pay off tremendously in the future. So I just wanted to add my words to you, Dr. Locke, because that process, the same as a strategic plan in the past, this process today is going to reshape the way the board works, with the current board and the future boards. So, you know, this document is going to be gold from this point forward. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Locke, to me, this is a culmination of all of the work that you put in since you've been here. And I don't mean just on the board. I'm talking about being in this area and working with the school district. I remember when I first met you, I didn't even know anything about your background, but then you start telling us. But I know this is maybe not the right time to say this, but you're going to truly be missed. And I enjoyed learning from you, and I enjoyed working with you, and I enjoyed you letting me kid with you every now and then. Sometimes you laugh, sometimes you didn't, but it didn't deter me from doing it. So hopefully today, when you leave here, I'll find some way to make you laugh again rather than drop those big alligator tears. But thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank all of you. I mean, as you can tell, I have a lot of emotions, but I've loved working with you guys, and just, but thank you for the kind words. But it's a team effort, and I just, I believe so strong in this board, and I just know how strong you are. And even though I may not be there, you will continue on the work. I have no doubt. That's what made it easier to know that I could make this change, is because I know you guys and I know what you stand for. And phenomenal superintendent. And, so anyhow, but thank you for the kind words, but it really was a team effort. And I really think this is going to just help things continue on. But again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Locke. And the thing I appreciate about you guys is I can feel the respect between you. And thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of it. And I look forward to working with you guys in the future. And yeah, so thanks. Anything else for the good of the group?
Well, I think I have to adjourn the meeting, but CJ.
Okay.
No, I was just going
There
to
you
say,
go.
When we bring Dr. Locke back, will you come back?
I'm here every time you need me, CJ.
Okay.
I'm your CSBA girl.
I know.
Terry, I forgot to thank you. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. All right, I'm going to hand it back to President Peden. There
Thank you
you
very-
go.
Thank you so much. All right, with no further business to come before the Board of Education, this special meeting is adjourned at 12:59 p.m.